Hey, this is Russell, and I work at the video store, the place that we can all go to every week when it's movie night. On days like today, when the store is quiet, I get to watch movies and series and talk about them with my friends that work here. All right, let's do it. Let's open up the shop.
Did you see that thing yesterday on the TV?
Good morning, guys.
What's up, Russell?
Howdy.
How you guys doing?
All right, dude. How are you doing?
I'm lekker, man.
Nice. Nice.
We've got ourselves a Graeme here today.
Hello.
And we've got ourselves a Cole here today.
That's me.
And we've got me here today. Welcome to the video store. Thank you for popping in. Thank you for spending some time at our video store.
Yeah.
I think today's going to be a little bit of a slow day.
Nice.
You know, it's nice to obviously have all the customers and do all the work, but, you know, we can chill out a little.
You got to take it easy once in a while.
No, Russ.
Every now and
Put your
again.
legs up.
And so because I saw it being a slow day, I've got to go do stuff.
Okay.
Okay?
What you got to do?
I'm getting married soon. I'm going away. I got lots of prep.
Nice.
Where are you going?
I'm going to Rome.
What the fuck? Why are you going to Rome?
Yeah, I'm going. It's a family trip to show the niece and the nephew Rome and the Colosseum,
Jeez.
and then it's a little bit of a beachy time in Sicily with the family.
Right.
Big shout out to our episode with Pity Bayers where I tell him about this.
Yes. Okay.
For those
yes.
who missed it, the actor Pity popped in and he said to get himself pumped, he watches the final scene of Gladiator.
Yes.
And then I told him about the fact that I am going and to prep my young niece and nephew, I am forcing them to watch Gladiator in the bioscope.
Nice.
So they did that a few days ago, which was
Cool.
very cool. So it was nice to show them that.
Nice.
But yeah, I got to go pack. I got to
All
go
right.
do stuff. Can you guys look after the
Yeah, sure.
the shop?
We got
We'll
this.
try.
Just do me a favor.
Yes.
Yeah?
Just don't talk about Star Wars.
I know, we'll try.
Hours.
All right.
Because I know it gets you guys upset and it gets you guys angry, and you fight. And I don't want to come back to tears. Is there something that you guys can talk about?
Probably. We'll
probably.
we'll think of something.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Look after the shop.
Yeah.
Don't fuck it up.
No worries. We got you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
So here we are. What are we talking about?
We are talking about Alien.
Oh, Romulus is coming.
With Romulus coming, we thought it was a good time to have a little chat about this franchise.
Exactly. I mean, we've done this informally a million times over beers and a
Yes.
Prego roll at Bell Zoo Lake. And now we get to officiate it
Yeah.
and record it.
Exactly.
And unleash our opinions onto the world. And in a particularly, I wouldn't say controversial,
Yeah.
but like quite a varied anthology in terms of its quality.
Very, very.
And for something that's still so popular
yeah.
with like, especially in the 90s and noughties with Alien Cubed, which we're going to call it, and Alien Resurrections.
Yeah.
It's like, is a resurrection singular?
I think it's Resurrection.
Okay.
I think.
Might
We
be
can double check.
getting confused with Matrix.
Yes.
But you'd expect a series like this to have died off or waned.
Yeah.
But like Alien persists, and I think largely just because of James Cameron and Ridley Scott's films, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think those are the two that still seem to be they live in the zeitgeist far
Yes.
more than the rest of the franchise does.
Exactly. And I mean, just that Monster is cool enough for us to have like continued engaging with it over all this time.
Yes.
I suppose the best place to start is the very beginning.
Yes.
With the original Alien.
1979.
1979.
Alien.
So I watched the director's commentary
Okay,
this time
cool.
around
Cool.
on the anthology DVD release.
Okay,
It was
sick.
like 2003 or something.
Yes.
And the fascinating thing that I learned about that was all the pre-production stuff building up to making Alien. And I think it's
Okay.
really interesting to get into a certain personality on this production.
Yes.
Right, and that's Dan O'Bannon.
Okay.
Because he's interesting in terms of taking credit for a lot of decisions.
Yes.
Right, and trying to like own the creative vision of the entire thing, even though he's very much just the writer.
Yes.
Right, so for those that don't know, Dan O'Bannon made a film called Dark Stars for part of his film school thesis,
Yep.
which John Carpenter directed.
I think it was John Carpenter's first film.
Was it his first film?
think it was his first movie.
There's loads of really interesting directors in this anthology.
Yes.
And their connections to other directors.
Yeah.
So we must chat about this. So John Carpenter's first movie, which I still haven't seen,
Same.
which is kind of annoying because it feels like that's going to be a really good precursor to Alien. And one thing I'd like to get into as well is Jodorowsky's Dune and Geiger, because I know
there are
watched
some
that.
connections, yeah.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. But essentially what happened was Dan O'Bannon wrote the script or wrote the story and conceptualized the story with someone else.
So you're talking about Alien itself?
Yes.
Yes, so that was with a guy named Ron Shusett.
Okay. So Dan O'Bannon
Yes.
was living on Ron Shusett's... Shusett, thank you.
Yeah.
Was living on his couch.
Was this after Dune fell apart?
Must have been.
Okay.
It must have been. And they got $10,000. I don't know if it was dollars or pounds, because I actually think they might have been in America or
Yes,
American.
okay.
And then gone to Alien for the shooting in the UK.
Yes.
Right. So living on his couch, they got $10,000 when the
Okay.
script was optioned.
Okay.
$5,000 each. Okay. And Dan O'Bannon eloped and got married.
Right.
And then they started development in this movie.
Right.
And one thing I'm really curious about is how involved Dan O'Bannon was throughout the entire thing.
Right.
Because it's the kind of thing like where Dan O'Bannon said that he designed the alien facehugger.
Really?
So Ridley, they looked at obviously Giger's sketches as the inspiration.
And they brought him on board, like Giger was actually like
Yes.
a production designer of sorts.
And
Mobius.
and like a person that was building things on set.
Yes.
Right? He
I
was
think
like
he was
involved
a-
in crafting.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Like as an
Yes.
artist with many skills.
Right.
Like not just drawing those
Yeah.
those sketches. But Dan O'Bannon went to go design and sketch out the facehugger. So tried to do it from different viewpoints.
Okay.
And then couldn't figure out how, because the idea were these fingers that
Yes.
went around the head.
Yeah.
And it's so weird to think of this as something that wasn't visualized because it's so embedded in our conscious,
Yeah.
right, as people, and couldn't figure out how they connected. So
Right.
first he showed what he had to Ridley, and Ridley was like, that's cool. And then he took it to, I think it was Ron. He took it to Ron Shusett, who
Okay.
drew the back of the alien, the back of the facehugger, where the fingers kind of connect to a body and a
Okay.
structure.
Yes.
And then they were going to paint it.
Right.
But because of the way they synthesized it, had a human skin color on it.
Okay.
And then they looked at that and they were like, don't paint it.
Yes.
Oh, Dan takes credit for this as well. Like, don't paint it.
Okay.
So I'm very curious, like, why this writer
Yeah.
was involved in designing something like that, right? And
Yes.
being throughout. And Ridley even says in the director's commentary that he was very desperate for Dan's approval
Okay.
throughout the thing because he knew that Dan wanted to direct it himself.
Yes. He originally wanted to direct it himself.
Yeah. And it's interesting because this was Ridley's second film.
Yeah, second after The Duelists?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Which I still haven't seen.
Yeah, dude. I'm terrible with the back catalog of
Yes.
most directors. And yeah, so I suppose, what are your thoughts on Alien?
Alien is maybe my favorite film of all time.
I mean, I'm saying this looking at an Alien poster over your computer.
Yes, there is an Alien poster right above my computer. Yeah, I love this film. It exists because of Star Wars,
Right.
right? Because again, like you're saying, they were commissioned, they had the script option, but it wasn't going anywhere. And then Star Wars happens, and now everyone's scrambling for space movies.
Right.
Everyone's space movies, Fox included, who also distributed Star Wars,
Okay.
were saying we need another space movie before the next Star Wars, knowing that the movie that became Empire was coming.
Okay.
They're like, cool, we want another one before that happens.
Right.
Which is wild when you think about the movie that they got
Yes.
in comparison to Star Wars.
When that's clearly what the studio is interested in and thinks what audiences want.
Yes.
So they don't option another space adventure.
Yeah. Because they had one line around. So like, oh, this one's Alien. This one's called Alien. It's about space. There you go. Make that one. Go, go, go.
And then it's a horror.
Yeah.
It's a full-on horror, right?
Like
so it's basically like a Minotaur in the labyrinth kind of setting on a spaceship.
Yes. That also deals with like rape.
Yeah.
And like really intense themes and concepts.
Yes.
They use the term psychosexual a lot when talking about it.
Really.
Yeah. So there's like a lot of that in this. And you're going like, wow, this is like the movie that they made in response to Star Wars. It's insane.
That is wild.
Yeah.
But then it became this phenomenon when it released, right? I mean, when you hear about the fact that people were throwing up in the cinema or like running out when the chestburster happened,
Yes.
you know, like in terror. It's
Yeah.
kind of one of those, is it Lumiere brothers with the train coming into the station situation where everyone's like, fuck, it's going to kill us. And you're like, no, dude. So you have this thing where people are seeing something for the first time. And my first exposure to Alien was Resurrection.
Oh,
When I was
interesting.
11,
Okay.
my cousins weren't allowed to show me that movie.
Okay, the weird one.
Yeah, and they did, and it horrified me. And then after that, the Alien vs Predator game.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, those were so much fun.
Those were so much fun, especially if you were playing a facehugger.
Yeah.
Because taking down your friend with a facehugger is the most satisfying thing in the world, and then you become an alien.
Yes.
Very quickly, I might add.
Yeah.
But I think a film that is more about how quiet it is. Ridley talks about quiet was really important to him, silence, because then you know something's going to happen, so it builds up tension, right? And he was very interested in the quietness of spaces, but then the dramatic atmosphere within those spaces. My favorite thing about Alien, and obviously this has a lot to do with Giger's designs.
Yes.
Even in the stuff that's not Alien, it's like the ship. I don't know how involved he was with the concepting of the ship's designs.
I think there was more. I know Mobius was involved, the French artist. I think there was someone else involved, but I can't remember exactly who it was, who designed like very practical stuff.
Yes.
Like the interiors of the spaceship and that sort of thing.
And it's kind of wild what you hear in the director's commentary about the things that were used to build the sets.
Oh, yes.
Which is all like ship parts from like a ship graveyard that they got.
Yes.
To synthesize things because they didn't have enough money to like build things in the ways that studios would make them.
Yes.
So it's a whole bunch of parts that have been pulled together.
Yeah.
He even talks about there's a broken down helicopter in the background of the one like warehouse scene.
Okay.
She's just like, okay.
Sure.
I'll just get a broken down helicopter. That's fine. But yeah, a lot of interesting things. And also interesting is that it also, like the series seems to have a problem with production in terms of producers trusting creatives' visions, directors' visions, and then letting them do what they want. We'll get into that on Alien Cubed.
Yeah.
But like with this, you had an actor that got sick on set
Okay.
with a diabetic attack.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and that guy had to go to hospital. On that day, Ridley Scott calls John Hurt,
Right.
goes to his house in the evening after sets, and John Hurt's on set the next day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know who that original actor was?
No.
Okay. I'm very
they
curious
probably
who was
said,
the
but-
original Kane.
Yes.
Wild. That means that we can get into it. Something kind of similar happened on Aliens as well.
Wild.
We'll get into that as well. But I think one of the big things that makes this film work so well and also makes it like contrast to Aliens so much is they go out of their way to like ground it.
Yes.
It's a really naturalistic film.
It is.
Like the dialogue's all like very like it sounds like just people sitting around a table talking. It's like it's really natural, like grounded, and a lot of it feels improvised because I think a lot of it was.
Yes.
You know, they would just like sit around a table, talk, see what happens.
Yes.
You know, and then Ridley Scott would go to them like when they were trying to like build tension. Ridley Scott would do stuff like go to Yaphet Kotto, who's incredible,
Amazing. Dude.
and be like, just tell him like egg her on, like referring to
Yes.
Ripley, like push her, like push Ripley.
And apparently this was his personality on set as well.
Really,
Like he would complain about the posh guys being all quiet and professional,
Yes.
like the crewmen.
yeah,
And he'd be like, just say something, have some fun. And then apparently one of the crewmen said to the actor that plays Dallas,
yes,
said to him, isn't it wonderful being British? But they could just be quiet and observe in the background. It's really fascinating. I wish, because what it seems like they did is like Ridley watched the film with Sigourney Weaver.
Yes.
The actors watched it together. John Hurt, the guy that plays Dallas.
yes. Tom Skerritt,
Yes, and Henry Dean.
Dean Stanton.
Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah, who's great. Like him, the pairing of him and Yaphet Kotto is so
It's
good.
genius.
Even like their costume design, like him wearing like the Hawaiian shirt.
Yes.
It's so good.
It's so brilliant. It's grounded. They feel
Yes.
human. And Dan O'Bannon said that he was really not interested in characterizing people in terms of giving them character moments beyond what's happening in the plot.
Okay.
He said that if he had to direct it,
Yes.
he would not write like a character Bible or something. He would rather sit with the actors and develop that for him because it would feel
Okay.
unnatural.
Yes.
So there's a lot of theorizing around what he would do if he was a director as well, which is interesting. But he says unless it has a bearing on the plot, the thing at hand, then he's
Yes.
not going to write it. He's not going to write like a random scene about
Okay.
people talking about their children back home
Yes.
or something.
Okay.
You know? One thing I am interested in as well is talking about grounding, is they talk about being employed, right? They talk about the money they're getting or the cuts.
Yes.
And they're referring to the corporation, like their employers,
Yeah.
right? Which becomes a massive theme in Alien.
Yes.
Like it's huge.
Yeah, because they don't name it in the first one, do they?
They don't.
It becomes Wayland in the second one.
Yes.
Okay, Wayland Yutani.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So, and on top of that, you have decisions like putting Ian Holmes' character in.
Yes.
Or
Ash.
Ash. Yes, Ash the android.
Yes.
Right? Which Dan O'Bannon hated.
Yes. Yeah.
So, which is really interesting to get into.
Yeah.
right? He was in the commentary. He said it was a bad idea made by inferior men.
Jeez.
He's nuts.
Yeah, he hates that rewrite. That because Walter Hill and David Giler, who were the producers, basically rewrote the script. They rewrote all the dialogue and changed all the names and stuff. Because they were like, the dialogue's bad, the names, like, whatever, they don't mean any, they don't care about them. They also, like, gave them all, like, gender-neutral names.
Okay.
That's why it's Ripley and Lambert.
And didn't they change Ripley from a male character to a female?
I think they're the ones who, like, decided to make their character female, yeah.
Okay, so Dan O'Bannon, from his perspective, is kind of like the David Fincher of this production that's just going through this process of his idea being changed and changed and changed.
Yeah.
Right? So you can understand why he's a bit bitter of
definitely.
it. So I can understand that as like your baby being changed from what you wanted it to be. But ultimately, the product speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a legendary piece of filmmaking.
Definitely.
He said the idea of Ash that was really interesting, that intrigued him, was the fact that Ash was the corporation putting their guy onto the ship too.
Yes.
And he said this would happen if you were transferring cargo on ships, right? You would put someone as a mole onto the ship to make sure it's like an insurance basically strategy is the way that Ridley was talking about it. So that's the way he rationalized it.
Okay.
Right? And it makes a lot of sense because with that planting, comes the theme of having an android in every single Alien movie, but then involving the corporation in this way where their interest is taking over the decisions, or at least like an antagonistic force, right, in the scripts. In this case, it's Mother.
Yeah, the computer, like that they refer to as Mother.
Yes.
Which is the only connection back to the company.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's saying crew expendable.
Yes.
Right? But yeah, my favorite fact about Alien, or the quadrilogy at least, is that there are 2 dogs in this anthology series.
There are 2 dogs. What do they put, like dogs in suits?
So that's Alien 3.
Yes.
Where they were going to make the alien that came out of the dog in the theatrical cuts.
Yes.
A dog.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they put a whippet into a xenomorph costume, which is hilarious to see the behind the scenes footage of. And you're like, good boy, who's a xenomorph? But the hectic thing was when Harry Dean Stanton is looking for Jonesy, the ginger cat.
Yeah.
Love that it's a ginger cat as well. Trying to find this cat, and that's when he's in this weird room, and you don't understand what the function of it is, which I'll get into in a second. They couldn't get a reaction out of the cat to the xenomorph. Okay. So guess what Ridley Scott did?
Brought a dog in.
He brought a German Shepherd onto set and put a board in front of the German Shepherd. So in that scene with Harry Dean Stanton looking at the cats, there's a German Shepherd off camera, and they lifted the board, so the cat suddenly saw this German Shepherd and got a fright.
Oh my goodness.
It's so funny.
Oh my lord.
So there's this unspoken cast member contributed to the Alien Anthology. It's a German Shepherd. It's a good boy German Shepherd. But in that room, my favorite parts, at least like experiencing this through the director's commentary, was Ridley's focus on atmosphere.
Okay.
How, and we've spoken about this about Ridley before, is like image is dense. It's got a lot of texture in it, and it's got feeling, and it's got effects.
And he loves
like
fog.
Fog,
loves
you know?
it.
And what happens in this room is there are chains hanging from the roof that are moving. There's water dripping from the ceiling. Okay, and it gives this room this particular kind of eerie atmosphere, right? Where you don't understand what the function of the room is. Okay, but it's having an effect on you. And the crew says to him, why are the chains there? Yeah. And Ridley's like, I don't care.
Just like the way it looks.
Yeah. And he's like, what's the water? Condensation.
Yeah.
And he's like, why is there condensation? I don't care.
Who cares? Yeah.
He's just like, it needs it.
Yeah.
And he talks about being a director and being Mr. Unpopular, quote unquote, on sets, right? Until you get it right. He said everyone is, quote unquote, doubting Thomas.
Right.
Because you're the person making these decisions that no one can understand, but you know it needs it.
Yes.
Right? So he talks a lot about the idea of directing and being that person on set who's making calls where you understand it's what the film needs. And he's very clearly right in this case.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, his films are beautiful.
Yes.
They just look stunning. And I have opinions about the other Alien movies as they relate to Alien in style.
Okay.
Which we'll get into. But yeah, that's by far my favorite fact about Alien is that there's a dog in it. You don't see that at all.
No, definitely.
You know?
What I really like about this is One of the films that Ridley Scott used as reference, and I think it was actually Dan O'Bannon who suggested it to him, was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
They said that as Ron Shusett.
Yes.
Did I get it right?
Shusett, I think.
Shusett.
I think.
Dan O'Bannon and Ridley Scott
Yeah.
made a film list where they
Okay.
watched all the iconic horrors to try and understand, how jump scares work
Yes.
and how you make them effective and everything. So I'm interested in that. So
Yes.
original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Okay.
We used that as a reference. And just the thing that I love is he described it as formidable. It was like, that movie is formidable. I was like, that's such a great word.
It's a
to describe a
stunning
film.
word to describe a film.
Yeah.
And especially Alien, because it is
I was going to
formidable.
say, it applies to Alien as well.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely applies to
So
Alien.
how they create a monster out of a man in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but then create it with a creature in space, right, where this thing is formidable. It's just chewing through this crew,
Yeah.
and they just can't do anything against it. Right, the strategy becomes to run.
Yeah.
At the end, right?
Exactly.
That is fascinating. So you can see that at the end as well when the ship mother has been put onto self-destruct, and you start seeing this fog everywhere. Like he said, it was compressed. It was a compressed gas on the side of frame. Like even when the ship lands
Yes.
and it initially like kind of breaks down,
Yes.
and Yaphet and Stanton have to repair it. You see this like bit of gas like go in front of their faces, and he like turns it off. And it's like they have this little compressed gas going out.
Yes.
But then you see how he uses it in that climax. And I remember a cinematographer that I worked with referencing that scene where it's just like, look at the amount of noise that's going on with the police lights
Yes.
and the warning lights and the fog and just the noise in frame. It's
Yeah.
like, and Ridley said because he was worried that it was only Ripley
Right.
in the last 20 minutes of the movie. So how do you make that entertaining in the climax of your movie with one character?
Yeah.
So he did that with visuals. He like overcompensated
Yes.
in order to try and make it engaging,
Wild.
which is like brilliant.
Wow.
He's a person who thinks about the engagement of the audience, right, and how they are engaging with it, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely love him. Did you hear about how little Ridley Scott directed these actors?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of his approaches to, I don't know if he did the same with this, but he rehearses a lot.
Okay.
Like before they even shoot. I don't know if he did that with this as well.
Okay.
But he will like rehearses a lot. So like his opinion is, in pre-production, you get everyone on the same page.
Okay.
So when you're on set, he doesn't have to worry about the actors. He can just trust them to do
Right.
what needs to be done.
They said here that the most direction he'd give them is interesting. That's all he'd say.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, famously, they didn't know what was going to happen with the chest burster.
Yeah, they're like new on paper, basically, because they'd
Yes.
obviously all read the script.
The guy that plays Dallas says he went onto sets
Yes.
when he wasn't supposed to. So he kind of had an idea of what was going to happen, but they didn't know that they'd loaded the exploding blood bags and stuff.
Right.
So then they actually talk about who's the woman?
Lambert?
Lambert, thank
Yeah.
you. She talks about the fact that she was just traumatized. Like she landed, she got such a fright that she landed on her ass, like fell over with her legs up in the air. And the crew had to like help get her out of this hole that she'd fallen into on set or something, where it was just that horrifying for them.
Yeah.
As crew, and you can see it. It's like this authentic, real, grounded reaction.
Yeah.
Right? And they speak very fondly about it. They think it's hilarious. But yeah, brilliant.
There's also, so I don't know if it still works like this in America, but like here we're used to the system where there's kind of like, there's two big cinema franchises. And like that's where we go to movies. But in
Right.
America, at least at the time, most cinemas were independently owned.
Okay.
So you'd actually, what the distributors would have to do is actually go to theaters and convince the theater owner to like screen their film.
Crazy.
Right, so they were having to do that with Alien. And then after the film came out, there was this one particular theater owner that they went to, and because people were putting up like warnings about how like horrifying this movie is going to be, and they're talking to this and like how did people like respond to like the chest burster? What did you guys do about things? Oh no, we took care of that. And they're like, what do you mean we took? What do you took care of it? They just cut it out of the movie.
What?
They just cut it out and screened it without the chest burster scene.
Are you serious? They like went to the film.
Yeah,
That they
just
got
cut
the
the film
piece of film
negative.
and they cut it, got scissors,
Yeah.
and snipped it out.
Just cut it out.
Sellotaped it
That's
back
how
together.
like the movie doesn't make sense without it. But like they didn't want to deal with the
Suddenly
mess.
there's like the face hugger falls off the face.
Yeah.
John Hurt's not there anymore. And then now there's this
Doesn't
giant alien running around.
Just cut it out. So funny.
That is nuts. Just like the kind of the audacity of just fucking with someone's movie.
Yeah.
That is nuts. Your thoughts on Ash gagging Ridley with the magazine?
I think it's interesting. I think it's just thematically plays into what the alien does as well.
Yes.
You know, the facehugger functionally rapes someone and impregnates them.
Yeah.
You know, it's a continuation of those same.
Right.
Again, they use the term psychosexual, the
Yes.
psychologically sexual. You know, even like in the film when Ripley is about to escape, she's in the escape pod, she thinks she's out of there, the alien's hiding in there.
Yes.
But it's not attacking her, it's sitting there watching her undress.
Yes.
You know?
And they originally
Again,
had
this
scripted
movie
something
came from Star Wars.
nuts. They had thought of an idea on set where they were thinking of the alien going up to the mirror and having like a sensual, sexual moment with Ripley before the final fight, where she was like hiding in that closet. And they were going to be like touching and hands involved. And even Sigourney Weaver was one of the people that was kind of brainstorming this with Ridley on set.
Right.
Which I'm very fascinated by, because the thing with Ash gagging Ripley when he malfunctions in order to try and protect the xenomorph, right? That's the agenda of the corporation, right? That Mother's part of, is to obviously do away with the humans now because they're going to threaten the xenomorph.
Yes.
So and then in this moment of throwing her around, he kind of gags her with a magazine. And Ripley on set said that he was very interested in the way that this android that didn't have bits,
Yes.
right, was suddenly dominant over a human/woman.
Right.
So I don't think that distinction is too important, but had an opportunity to dominate. And without bits,
Yeah.
I'm using that very...
Yes.
What's a euphemism?
Yeah.
And started shoving this magazine in his mouth because it's the only thing he could get a hold of.
Yeah.
Right, so he was just interested in the idea of playing that out conceptually, just an android having this opportunity
Wild.
and having that desire. Not for any reason that it's going to make sense or be explained.
Yeah.
Right, it's just something to add a layer to what you're seeing,
Yes.
which is wild. It's just kind of like, yeah, let's throw this in
Yeah.
without having to explain it. So there's a lot of, like you say, a lot of thought that goes into rehearsing with the actors beforehand, but then there are opportunities to play around on set as well. I love Ripley Scott, dude.
Right.
Oh, my
Ripley
word.
Scott.
And famously storyboards all his own movies. And on that DVD anthology, you can go through
Oh, cool.
cells, like one by one, full screen scanned cells
Okay.
of his storyboard.
Wild.
And it's all inked. I feel like
Really?
he didn't pencil it in and then ink over it afterwards. He draws with a pen, just like straight up.
Nice.
And it's
That's
like
interesting.
messy and it's good. And you get a sense of what it is. Highlighters to create colors.
Yeah.
Right?
Wild.
So brilliant. The other cool thing I have to say about this is, you know, at the end, Sigourney Weaver sings "You Are My Lucky Star,"
Yes.
when she's trying to kind of distract and console herself and keep her panic in check.
Yeah.
For her as an actor, it made sense for her to sing a song.
Yes.
So then she just came up with that. Producers lost their shit because it cost them millions of dollars to get the rights. And Ripley loved it, of course. Like, go for it. It sounds amazing. Producers come on to say, they're like, fuck, what have you done? Now we have to pay for the rights to use this song.
Jeez, like.
Yeah.
Wow. And, we've kind of been bagging on Dan O'Bannon a bit here.
Yes.
And I don't want to sound like we're just mocking a dead man.
Yeah.
But I've actually written down this quote. This was the quote for me that like really rubbed me the wrong way in terms of like his attitude towards the film.
Yeah.
And his contribution, so to speak. So it's long, so I don't have to do the whole thing, but let's just see where we go. So basically speaking about Alien, he says, it's sandbagged every subsequent attempt to make a scary monster movie. If I'm going to write a script, I always try to exhaust the themes. When I write about something, I don't want to have something important unsaid about that theme. I try always to see to the bottom of any piece of material. I certainly tried to do that on Alien, and although I didn't see it at the time, the result has been that Alien, this was not my intent, but the result has been that Alien fulfilled a genre.
Sure.
Right? Thereby put a cap on it. Nothing left to do in that genre. I didn't set out to do that, but I did. Right? By bringing everything in that genre to its ultimate. We certainly ended up doing that. My advice to filmmakers in that genre is don't waste your creative blood. Move on.
What?
Right? It's
Oh, no.
like just full of yourself.
That's not
Like basically
okay.
saying I created the ultimate.
Horror movie.
Yeah.
But like we all know that Alien is, especially Alien, is this incredible synthesis or like coming together of a whole bunch of different creative forces.
Yeah.
Right? You have Ripley Scott, who was obsessed
You
with
keep saying Ripley Scott.
God damn it. That was a test and you passed, Graeme. Ridley Scott and his obsession with the heavy metal comic aesthetic at the time and how that informed the design of the Nostromo.
Yes.
And then you have H.R. Giger's like psychosexual work, right? What was the name of
I think it was called Necronomicon.
Necronomicon? Yeah,
I think.
Like this book that he designed that informed so much of the design of Alien and the
I mean, the
thinking
alien
behind
is
Alien.
in that book. What wound like they
Like
literally
what
took a
wound up?
design
Yeah,
from
they just
that
took
and
a design. It was like that's the alien.
Yeah.
Right. So and if anything, the legacy of Alien is that design. I think like Giger plays such a major role in its success.
Definitely.
But then to just go back and completely dismiss everyone else's creative input, especially when the script was rewritten.
This is another thing. Like he doesn't like the script.
But he's going to take credit for its
But he's
success.
going to take credit for like the ultimate success of the film, despite the fact that he like hates the script.
And also, how boring is it to say that I made the best horror movie? Don't make more horror movies because you can't make a better horror movie than my horror movie.
Yeah, he says the only time you'll be able to do something like new in the genre is when whatever comes after movies, like then you can do something new with it. When something replaces film as like an art form.
So he says, oh, like that's why he says put a cap on it. It's done. You can't do anything better with it.
Exactly.
Did he ever try to make a horror again after this?
I don't know. Let me actually look him up. I know he wrote Total Recall. So post Alien, he did a movie called Dead and Buried, which sounds like a horror movie. The Return of the Living Dead, which sounds like a horror movie. Invaders from Mars, which sounds like an alien horror movie. Total Recall, Screamers.
Look at Screamers. Posters of a woman screaming with stars behind her. That looks like a space horror movie to me.
And also, I mean, it could come down to he's essentially typecast as a writer and he's just doing what he's hired to do.
Right.
Also, I could do something.
The genre is on IMDb as, say, horror, sci-fi, thriller.
Right.
Bizarre. So to say that the film you made, put a cap on it, I've exhausted all the themes from it, don't have to write another space horror. It goes and writes another space horror. In 1995. Bizarre.
Fascinating.
Yeah, let's just say a fascinating character.
Yes.
An interesting character in Dan O'Bannon. Very interested in him. Let's move on to Aliens.
Let's do that.
Okay, what are your thoughts on Aliens broadly?
I really enjoy Aliens. I think it's a hell of a lot of fun. I think it is a massive departure from Alien. Like thematically, it's totally different. Stylistically, it's totally different. Its writing is radically different. Like we're talking about how grounded and like natural the dialogue is in Alien.
Yes.
There's none of that in Aliens.
Yeah.
It's very like catchphrasey.
Yeah.
Very game over, man.
Game over, man.
Yeah, like the whole movie's kind of written like that.
Yes.
And it's nothing like Alien, which in some ways is great because they didn't try to just like they didn't seem interested in just reiterating Alien again. Even if like structurally Aliens is actually quite
it's like
similar
exactly
to
the same
yeah,
structure.
it's very, very similar in that sense. But like, you know, shifting it to an entirely different genre. It's not a horror movie, it's an action movie.
Yeah.
It's not scary at all.
It's not scary.
Yeah. And I think I prefer Alien a lot. I think Alien is a much better film. But I think it's like characters, like the character actors in those roles, you know, in terms of expanding things and introducing the Queen, which is like became a huge deal in the whole Alien franchise, is really important. I think Ripley is really good in this. Yes. I think she's pretty well written, but more importantly than that, really well performed.
Yes.
You know, I think it introduces a lot of fun characters, even if most of them die. You know,
yes.
I think Bishop is great. Lance Hendrickson as Bishop is probably my favorite character in the whole thing.
So
Bill
brilliant.
Paxton is an absolute joy.
God.
I love him.
He's so hilarious.
Like, I don't know if he's a good actor, but I love watching him.
Yes.
He's so much fun and so enthusiastic.
So charismatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and like Hicks is okay. I know a lot of people like really like Hicks.
Yes.
I just think he's kind of like a blank slate character. I don't think he's very interesting. I like Michael Biehn. I think he does decent.
Yes.
He does a decent enough job there, especially since I said a similar thing. You said a guy had to leave Alien because he was sick or whatever. So the original actor for Hicks wasn't Michael Biehn.
Okay.
It was James Remar.
Okay.
Who was arrested for drug possession.
What?
And then was basically going to be kicked out of the UK.
Oh, nuts.
Because they were shooting this in the UK. So then, like, on a Friday, Gail Ann Hurd, who's a producer and at the time James Cameron's wife, calls up Michael Biehn because they'd worked together on Terminator.
Oh, I see.
And was like, we need you here by Monday. And he was like, okay.
Did he have to fly to the UK? Oh, my goodness. That is so nuts.
It's wild.
Something like that also happens on Alien Cubed. So we'll get into
really?
that. Yeah.
Good Lord.
It's insane. It's
cursed.
There's a lot of that happening in the Alien series.
Yes.
Like a lot of fix it quickly. This is a big problem.
Yeah.
I think, so you noted how different it is.
Very different, yeah.
I don't like that about it. I don't know if the 4K transfer rubbed me the wrong way. So
Okay.
a new 4K transfer was made of Aliens, for those who don't know.
Yeah.
I had it on Apple Plus,
Yeah.
Apple TV Plus,
Whatever
it's called, Apple. And it's incredibly crisp. And aesthetically, it looks identical to Avatar. Like without the film grain,
Right.
it fully looks like it's a digital Avatar movie.
You can see how, like, in that way, James Cameron is pretty distinct.
Yes, he's
Yeah.
definitely got a style.
Yeah.
But like I was talking about with Ridley Scott's, and it's bad that I'm comparing it and not appreciating it for being its own thing. But I'm coming at it from the angle of Alien has a look as a genre or as a piece of filmmaking, and outside of that, Aliens just feels too different.
Okay.
Right? In tone, in look and feel.
Yes.
And structurally, it's like the same thing. And I'm a big fan of requels. I can't say that I don't like requels after watching like Force Awakens, right?
Yes.
But it is like pretty much an identical movie to Alien in
Yeah.
terms of its structure and its conclusion, how they win the day, etc., etc.
Okay.
But yeah, the Marines, Michael Biehn,
Yeah.
like
I think
such good entertainment value.
I think what the thing is, I'm looking at it separately, like a standalone movie.
Yes.
You're thinking of it in terms of, very specifically in terms of as a sequel to Alien.
Yes.
It's not despite people saying, no, it's one of the best sequels ever, it's actually not a good sequel to Alien.
It's actually not.
No. Because it doesn't carry on like thematically or stylistically or like obviously narratively cool, go in a totally different direction. That's fine. But like, I mean, thematically, it's almost the exact like opposite.
Yes.
Talking about all this like psychosexual, like very almost depraved sort
And,
of
like,
stuff that they're doing.
quietness.
Yes. Whereas
Yeah.
like this, you give Ripley a maternal arc, which is like
Yes.
completely the opposite of that.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, so that's why I think it's like it might be a great action film. I don't think it's a great alien film. Right? Even though it's like orientated around Alien and it exists in that world, but like I can't get over the fact that the aliens aren't scary.
The aliens aren't scary for a number of reasons. One thing, they don't look very good. I
hate
don't
the
like the design.
Yeah, where they removed the like smoothness of its
Yeah.
headpiece.
Yes.
Right? And they made all those grooves.
And also the fact that they found a very specific guy
Okay.
to be the alien. It was a guy they spotted in a bar. He was a Nigerian dude
Okay.
who was like 7 foot tall
Wild.
and like really thin and really lanky. So they're like, cool, we can put this guy in and like extend his fingers out and make him look like human, but like off,
Okay.
you know, because of that. So he wasn't even an actor. It's the only movie he ever did. Of one of the producers or something like that literally spotted him in a bar in England. He was there studying. He's from Nigeria. His name was Balaji Badejo, something like that. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. But again, incredibly tall, very thin.
Yes.
So like, cool, we can put him in the suit and make it look really specific. Now, Aliens comes along, and there's 20 aliens.
Yes.
You're not going to go to bars and find a whole bunch of skinny 7 foot tall people. You have to like just squeeze stuntmen into these suits.
Right.
So it completely changes the profile
Wow.
and the look of them, and they just don't look the same. They also, I don't necessarily have a problem with adding more of them, but there's almost too many,
yeah,
and they kill them so easily. They just
Yeah.
shoot them and they die. And
Exactly.
apparently they're all pressurized, because every time they shoot one of them, it explodes for some reason.
yeah.
So it just like, it dilutes the alien to the point where they don't feel like a threat anymore. They only overwhelm them with numbers,
Right.
you know, by making them panic and do like make them force them into making stupid decisions.
Yes.
As opposed to an alien, where you have this one formidable beast
Yes.
that kills an entire crew of people.
Exactly.
You know,
And it's a bunch of humans reacting to this very inhuman, unnatural situation,
Yes.
right? So it's got like that grounded authenticity we've been talking about.
Exactly.
With aliens, you kind of get the impression, oh, if they had enough guns and enough soldiers, they'd be fine.
exactly. If they just had more ammo, they would be totally fine.
Yeah.
Like they make a point of like, there's a scene where they're going through all their ammo and they have less of it.
Yes.
You know,
So they kind
or
of
at least in the
understood
extended
that.
cut. I don't know if that was in the theatrical
Yeah.
cut.
And it kind of annoyed me in the 4K transfer. I've heard a lot about this scene.
Yes.
Where on the ship after Ripley is woken up,
You know.
she's in kind of a holographic room
Yes.
and she hears that her daughter has died.
Correct.
And that wasn't in this 4K.
'Cause
I've never seen that extended cut.
It's in the special edition cut.
Okay.
So the special edition cut just it's your typical extended cut sort of thing.
Okay.
But it has that scene in particular. I think the theatrical cut has better pacing. I think it's the one I prefer.
All right.
But that one scene in particular, where we learn that Ripley has a daughter
Yes.
named Amanda, who's the main character in Alien Isolation.
Cool. Computer game.
Great game.
Yeah.
She is, although I think this has actually been retconned. I don't think she's actually dead, like, canonically anymore.
Oh.
But they tell her essentially that her daughter just died of old age because she was in cryosleep for like 60 years or whatever it was. Which is really important to Ripley's character arc.
It is. If your theme is about a maternal connection
Exactly.
to this child, Newt,
Yes.
which I hate. Terrible acting. I'm so sorry to this woman, but I can't handle bad child acting. It is so cringy to watch.
Yes.
And this film is just full of it. And it's
Yeah.
also one of the reasons why I think if I continue to watch it, I'm going to dislike this movie more and more and more. But if that's the point, and she's attached to this child,
And she
right?
forms an attachment to Newt so quickly.
Yeah, kind of unnaturally, right?
Yes.
It's like, yes, I have to look after this child to help it survive.
Yeah.
Because shame.
Exactly.
The child's family has been eaten alive by these aliens
Yeah.
or like had chest bursters come out of them. But why? Why does she attach to this child in
Exactly.
such a particular way? Why is she so nurturing and caring for her?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like that scene of discovering that her daughter's dead, like establishes that.
Yes.
It's really important. And like there's a lot of imagery throughout it, and it was James Cameron's idea for the sequel of setting up Ripley, Hicks, and Newt as this like family group.
Okay.
You know, and you see that like they kind of build that imagery in where like it reaches the point where you have Ripley who's holding Newt, and then Hicks comes in and like puts his arm around both of them, and it's like this image of like a family, this like built family, you know. And it's like you kind of lose some of that by losing just that one little scene. I think that should have been in the theatrical one.
And I mean, this is part of my gripe with it being a carbon copy of Alien structurally.
Yeah.
Is that I'm kind of like the whole thing with the airlock at the end with the Queen.
Yes.
I'm just like, Ripley should have died.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If like the stake was Newt there.
Yeah.
And it was like, we could have gone on to have Newt be a character. Totally. It's a great establishing story for a character to have in the Alien universe, right? You're part of a colony that's settled on the planet. I feel like it's very lame that I don't know what that planet's called.
LV-426.
Well done, Graeme. Yes, it's a nerd card. You got it. I love that. Yeah. But that's an amazing origin story for a character to have in this universe and to carry it on, right? So my thinking was like around this theme of motherhood. And we shouldn't talk about how movies should have happened. I think that's lame. But I do enjoy that discussion.
Yeah.
It just kind of happens in the same way it did in Alien.
Yes.
So if especially coming, I think that's the problem with watching it back to back so soon. I think if I give it a couple years and just go to Aliens by itself without the context of Alien, I think I'd enjoy it far more. Because like you're saying, it works as a standalone movie set in the Alien universe.
Yeah. I think maybe they would have possibly done something like that. But again, even while making this film, James Cameron was talking to them about his idea for like the next one.
Okay.
In terms of this like built family unit that they have.
Yes.
So it's like keeping her and Hicks alive is kind of like what he wanted to do in order to continue the franchise, basically.
It's very interesting how that plays out in Avatar.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's like themes around family.
Yeah.
Very cool. But yeah, Aliens is great. It's very popular.
Oh, yeah. And I get why, because it's fun.
It's fun as hell.
Like, it's more fun than Alien. So I understand why, like, a broader audience is going to engage with it more easily.
Exactly. I remember Empire Magazine had this list of top 250 movies as rated by critics, film directors and producers, etc., and all their readers. And Aliens was rated 2 spots higher than Alien.
Oh, okay.
And that always made me curious. I was
I kind of understand it, but at the same time, I vastly prefer Alien.
Yes.
Yeah. But this movie, making this movie was a nightmare, apparently. For one thing, James Cameron is known to be incredibly demanding.
Okay.
Like, he's like an absolute perfectionist.
I think it's
and he's not going to be nice about it. He's like going to be like a real dick. Like, dude, you need to look up the quotes from Winslet about why she would never work with James Cameron again, even though she did. But she had a bad time making Titanic because he's not a nice guy. At least on set.
Right.
Like, he's got that set. You know, it seems like that's like not an uncommon thing of like directors having like a persona almost when they're in directing mode. Apparently Michael Bay is the same. Like, on set he's like demanding and like forceful and like a huge personality, but in private he's like quite shy and quite reserved.
Interesting.
It's wild.
I also feel like in the short time that I've directed student films
and
everything, I mean, there were 12 of them, and I got to understand like what it is to direct and how you go about doing it personally.
Yes.
And I felt like 100% there's a confidence in me that comes out that I don't have
Okay.
outside of the film set.
Yes.
Where people can say to me, Cole, why don't we do this? I'm like, no, that's a bad idea.
Okay.
You like start to develop this certainty because you've spent so much time. Like, think of all the time you and I have spent on the scripts that we wrote.
Yeah.
And you start to understand it in a way, right? That where you go, this is what's needed.
Yes.
And the other things are going to diminish that.
Yeah.
Right? That's very interesting.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, that's what people like. In hindsight, a lot of people are like, okay, James Cameron clearly had this like very clear vision
Right.
for like what he wanted this to be, and he's gonna like get it no matter what. It's that whole auteur thing. If you subscribe to that sort of thinking,
Yes.
and like somebody said, if like there were 150 James Camerons, he would get exactly what he wants. But there's only one of him, and he has to try and like get everyone on like his wavelength essentially.
That's wild.
And also like because it's shot at Pinewood, which is where they shot the first one as well.
Okay.
Which is in England, and apparently the English crews are very different to American crews.
Okay.
So like in terms of, at least at the time, I don't know if there's still like this, like unions are quite
Right.
like strong, like
Yes.
they're quite strict. Like you have breaks, your
Yes.
working hours are quite set. They have tea time.
Tea time.
Yeah, because what they said was James Cameron would get like super pissed off because like literally a tea lady would come along with like a little cart with tea and like snacks on it at like 10 o'clock or whatever.
What?
But according to them, they like start working early. No one has breakfast or anything. And then when like this 15-minute break comes, everybody's going to go grab a cup of tea. It seems very reasonable. But James Cameron is like, once you're working, you just work,
Yes.
you know?
Sure. So
And
there's
also
the
just
conflicts
that-
of cultures.
Yeah, very much that culture clash between America and like the British.
Yes.
And like the American actors getting like annoyed with the British crews. Because apparently, I don't know if there's still at the time, the British crews would refer to the actors as artistes. That was just like their term for it.
Okay.
And the Americans just like interpreted this as an insult. As
Oh,
an insult,
really?
even though it's just like what they would like call them. So it'd be like, get the artistes to say it. And the American actors like,
Stop calling me an
Yeah.
artiste.
I don't understand it. But yeah, apparently it was just like, and he fired the first DOP.
Really?
Yeah, because like the first DOP, a guy named, great name, Dick Bush.
Wow.
Tremendous name, Dick Bush. He was quite like an old school kind of cinematographer.
Okay.
Whereas like these days, there's a lot more like blurred lines between the director and the DOP. In
Yes.
terms of the director's going to make a lot of choices and kind of say to the DOP, this is what I want it to look like.
Yes.
Whereas the more old school way of thinking is the director directs, the DOP lights.
Okay.
So the DOP is going to be in charge of all the lighting and finding the look.
Okay.
And that's what this guy wanted to do. And James Cameron's like, no, I want it to look this way. And this guy was like, that's not how I work.
Wild.
And he even said to, I think he said to Gail Ann Hurd, I can't do it on this schedule. Like, it's impossible to shoot this movie on this schedule. And that's kind of the thing that got him fired, essentially saying, no, this can't be done.
Right. So
And I'm
then
not
you
gonna listen.
can't do the job.
Yeah. I think he came to like the point where they were shooting that first scene where they go into like the structure that has all the people in it.
Yes.
Where it turned out to be aliens. And he was lighting it like quite traditionally, whereas James Cameron was like, I wanted to basically feel like their headlamps are lighting the environment.
Okay.
And this guy was like, no, I'm just going to light it like you'd light a set. And that was like the breaking point where he's like, this dude's fired, get a new guy in.
Wild.
Yeah.
Imagine, that's the crazy thing for me as well, is like when you know that your film has to look a certain way.
Yes.
And in order to get that to where it has to be, you have to fire someone.
Yes.
Just be like, I'm not working with you anymore.
Yeah.
Wild.
I guess it's just that like old school way of thinking. Evidently, that's what DOPs used to be like. Was like DOP defines the look, director directs.
Yeah.
They're totally different things.
I know. I can imagine with someone like James Cameron, that's not going to fly.
Yeah.
Not for a second, dude.
No.
Going to tell me, I don't want your direction. I'm doing it this way.
Yes.
Cheers.
And all the crew, because there was a lot of the same crew that had worked on Alien,
Okay.
were apparently quite like loyal to Ridley.
Oh.
And they obviously didn't know, like, obviously they don't know like studio politics and stuff. Ridley didn't come back. He like chose not to make another one.
Right.
Whereas they kind of viewed James Cameron and Gail Ann Hurd as like interlopers of like these know-it-all, arrogant Americans coming in.
Okay.
And they viewed the British crews as like lazy and inefficient. And it's just
Ooh,
this.
so just a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
One of the things that kind of bugged me again, I don't know if this is the 4K transfer,
Yeah.
but the miniature work on that film just doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't too. I mean, a lot of miniature work from that period doesn't
Yes.
hold up. Like something like Star Wars has a big advantage in the sense that, especially in the original film, it's all on black backgrounds,
Right.
so that you don't get a sense of scale.
Yes.
You know?
You don't have anything to compare it against,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. Whereas an Alien, they're kind of like in little sets and that sort of thing as well, and you like immediately get a sense of the scale.
You can see it's a toy car.
Yeah, exactly.
And a toy ship.
Yeah.
Immediately, I just saw that and I was like, whoop, that didn't age well. Something that Dan O'Bannon took credit for on Alien was the first time a ship comes from space into Earth
Yeah.
or into a planetoid
Yes.
that he thought of taking off in a ship and how bad an airplane,
Right.
and how bad the turbulence can be.
Yes.
So he was like, what if they landed on the ship and it wasn't just smooth sailing down to the surface? What if
okay.
entering the atmosphere again was like a rocky turbulence ride?
Yes.
And that's the first time that happened in a movie, apparently.
Is it?
Yeah, that's what he was insinuating. The first appearance of a super strong female in a James Cameron movie, which has kind of become an archetype of his.
Yeah, kind
Like
of.
with Michelle Rodriguez in Avatar.
Yes.
And Sarah O'Connor. You have this woman who's got this freaking cool, like, Steadicam rigged turret on her body, right?
Yes.
It's fully an arm for a Steadicam.
Yes.
That they've put this turret on.
Yeah.
It was like, that is fucking cool.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons this movie has like its appeal, I
Yeah.
think. It's got those moments where you look at it and you're like, that is a cool idea. That's badass.
Exactly.
And that's kind of its energy, right? So it's got this badassery to
Yeah.
it. And this brilliant line where, who's our favorite actor, Bill Paxton, says to her, hey, have you ever been mistaken for a woman, for a
Yes.
man?
Yeah.
What do you say? Have
Yeah,
you
have
ever
you
been
been-
mistaken for a woman?
No, no,
and
for
then
a-
she says to Bill Paxton,
No,
I
have-
haven't, have you?
No, yeah, have you been mistaken for a man? And she says, have you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Vasquez.
Vasquez,
Yes.
that's it.
Played by famous South American actress Jeanette Goldstein.
Oh, really? Did not expect that.
Not South American.
Not South American at all. Yeah,
Brown face.
yeah,
Let's not talk about it.
yeah. We've kind of already spoken about how beloved this film is.
Yeah, and I understand why.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like, it's got a broad appeal. And I think James Cameron is clearly very good at that.
Yeah.
Making films that appeal to large audiences. I don't have access to your Wi-Fi. But anyways, I had Aliens open, and it's number 69 on IMDb's top 250 movies.
Okay.
So it's kind of cemented its place.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Like, it's got a legacy and people love it.
Mm.
So great jobs, Jimmy Cameron.
Yeah, again, like it sounds like we're being negative, and I think I like it more than you do
Yes.
because I can just kind of like settle into it and have fun and
Yes.
enjoy the characters. And,
Yes.
you know, again, the addition of the Queen is really cool. It's pretty well executed. It occasionally looks a little janky.
Yes.
But considering this is 1986,
Yeah.
like, it's pretty freaking impressive.
I mean, you're still like Stan Winston's
Yeah.
workshop,
Yes.
right? Building this ginormous alien queen
Yeah.
that's essentially a puppet,
Yeah.
right? And that's just an achievement.
Yeah.
Technical marvel. And the face huggers in this are so cool.
Yeah.
There was that shot where the corporate dweeb
Yes.
traps
Burke?
Merc. Is that his name?
Burke, I think it's
That's
Burke.
hilarious.
Yeah.
He's not a merc. But Ripley and Newt being trapped in that room, and then he unleashes the face
Yes.
huggers inside the room.
Yeah.
And then when Ripley's on her back crawling towards the corner of the room, you see this face hugger crawling on the floor towards
Yes.
her. I'm just like, fuck, that's cool.
Yeah.
It is so rad.
Yeah.
Just this, that you can create this thing in camera that moves like that and looks
Right.
as real as it does, which is what they've done for Romulus.
Yeah.
So they've created these practical face huggers that are on little, essentially, like little toy car motors.
Okay.
That just zoom along the floor and its legs go,
Yes.
and it looks rad.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
That's all. That's another completely unrelated conversation about how every time modern studios seem to be like ashamed of CGI.
Yes.
So they like to say we're not using CGI. We're all practical,
Yeah.
and it's always a lie.
Oh, it's always a lie.
Massive lie,
Talking about bad CGI, let's go to Alien Cubed.
which doesn't have CGI in it.
There's the alien on the roof.
The alien on the roof.
The alien on the roof. Sorry, I said that without context. But you know when they're trying to trap the alien in the mold
Yes.
at the end of the film?
Yeah.
And there's this moment where they're going through the different corridors to try and trap the doors and lead it into the mold.
Yes.
There's this moment where this guy looks on the roof.
Yes.
And the alien is on the roof. Is that CGI? Wild.
There's one CGI shot in the entire film.
What is it?
There's a scene again right towards the end there when they've like the aliens in like the lava-y stuff.
Yes.
And then it comes out and they dump stuff on it. So
Yes.
and you see like
water.
the cracks.
Yes.
So when you see the cracks go
I know
across
exactly
the
what
carapace,
shot you're
that's the
talking
only
about.
CGI in the whole film.
Oh, crazy. Because I'm very curious about this then. Because the alien in that shot looks like it's been badly composited.
It is badly composited.
Okay, so
that's the problem.
It's like filmed on a plate, or is it like a plate of the room?
So
and
the
then
way that they
alien's been
did
comped into it.
the way they did the alien, it's a rod puppet.
Oh, interesting.
So it's a puppet that's about this big.
For people's reference, Graham's holding about
30
like 30
centimeters, 40
centimeters plus
centimeters.
something. Yeah.
And you can find there's tons of like behind the scenes footage of this. Each leg is on like a rod that they would place on the ground. So it was never like on a surface, I assume for like compositing shadows and that sort of thing.
Okay.
And there's basically a puppeteer on like each leg, and then they puppeteered like with rods like that, and then that was then comped in.
Oh, I see.
But this is obviously the days before. There's no digital compositing. This is all still analog, old school compositing with matte lines and all that sort of thing.
Right.
That's why it always has like an outline,
Yes.
because they're literally having to like cut it out
Crazy.
and comp it in that way. That's why it doesn't work.
Oh, it doesn't work at all.
No, because the two problems with it are you can always see a matte line,
Okay.
and the contrast doesn't match.
No, it doesn't match at all.
Yeah, because essentially to comp those two things, they're having to double expose the film all the time.
Okay.
So the one you have film of this little alien puppet on like a green screen,
yes.
which they've then comped out. Again, we're
Yes.
talking like digital terms here.
Yes.
And then that's then being re-exposed onto the footage, the plate footage.
Okay.
So the contrast of the two like never matches. Again, this is the advantage of Star Wars, where everything's on a black background.
Yes.
So you can't see the matte lines.
Jeepers.
You know?
Okay, that's fascinating because every time it's comped in, well, I'm not going to say every time.
Yeah.
Most of the times, especially this one shot where it's on the roof, where it feels like it's kind of got a pass on it.
Yes.
That is completely out of sorts with the rest of the shots.
Yeah.
It's like got a green fade across it where you can't see its detail or anything.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I'm fascinated by that.
Because you remember, this is just before CGI started to become a thing.
Okay.
You know, it's 1992, before Jurassic
Yes.
Park. Only like huge budget films like Terminator 2 were doing this.
Right.
You know, but since we're on the topic of Alien 3,
Yeah.
we could start at the beginning, because this has got a bit.
It's got a story.
The story around making this film is more interesting than the film itself.
Can I go before the beginning? I don't know how far back you were willing to go.
So like the production phase,
Okay, no.
pre-production.
So I want to talk about how Steven Spielberg has a connection to Alien 3,
Okay.
which is wild. Okay. And this is through the cinematographer, just before everyone gets annoyed with my one of the 3 cinematographers or something that
really?
worked on this film or something, or was slated to work on it at least. A guy called Alex Thompson. Okay. They called him on a Monday and he started on a Tuesday, a week and a half into production. Okay.
Jeez.
So this guy had just been told that he couldn't work on a film with David Lean.
Okay.
So David Lean, for those that don't know, is the director of Dr. Zhivago, Lawrence of Arabia, and Bridge on the River Kwai.
Yeah.
So a gargantuan figure in cinema,
Yeah.
right? And the last film he was going to make was called Nostromo,
Oh,
which has nothing to do with the alien Nostromo.
interesting.
Weird connection.
Yes.
It's a book written by the same person that wrote Heart of Darkness.
Okay.
And David Lean had originally done a lot of work on the script for Empire of the Sun,
Oh, okay.
and decided that he didn't want to do it because he didn't like the script anymore.
Right.
And told Steven Spielberg to do it.
Interesting.
So that's how Steven Spielberg got Empire of the Sun. And when they met around 1985,
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg spoke to David Lean about collaborating together and was going to be on this film Nostromo that Steven was going to produce.
Okay.
And then, so they kind of developed a friendship, these
Yes.
two, which must have been a big deal for Spielberg because he
Yeah.
loves David Lean, right? And what happens is you start to get a lot of creative differences
Yes.
where Spielberg has big opinions on casting.
Right.
And then eventually this kind of friendship that they have falls apart
Oh.
and Spielberg pulls off the project. And David Lean worked on this film from 1986 to 1991 when he died.
Jeez.
Okay, of throat cancer.
Yeah.
Battles with throat cancer. And the cinematographer, Alex Thompson, had been on the film since 1990. Right. So they hadn't gone into production yet, but he was going to be the cinematographer.
Yes.
Then Alex Thompson comes from a holiday in France
Right.
and is called to come work on Alien 3.
Okay.
Okay. So that's like Steven Spielberg's really loose
Yes.
association on a film called Nostromo,
Yeah.
which has the same title as the ship in Alien 1,
Yeah.
for those who don't know. So it's like a very weird connection, right? But Alex Thompson was the cinematographer for Legend.
Okay, Ridley Scott.
Yes, and Excalibur.
Okay.
And apparently a remake of Citizen Kane.
Okay.
I didn't know that was a thing. And I read that in this article. I was like, why would you do that? Like,
Yes.
who's making this? You know? Okay, what's your story about the start of this?
So, originally went to James Cameron.
Okay.
And James Cameron, again, we were talking about that he had the whole idea of, making it about this family, essentially.
Yes.
Newtix, Ripley.
Which is a very cool idea. It's like
Yeah,
a
it's
different
fine.
direction for the series.
It's not bad, yeah. And then Bishop was going to be involved in stuff as well. I assume he was probably doing Terminator 2 at the time, because Terminator 2 was also like early 90s.
Yes.
So he was like, okay, why don't you get Ridley Scott to do 3 and I'll do 4? So it didn't happen.
Okay.
So then they went to Rennie Harlan. He was the first guy.
Okay, yes. It's a Finnish director of
Yes.
Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and Die Hard 2.
Yes, Die Hard 2 is probably his most famous
Okay.
thing. And his whole idea was to go to the alien homeworld.
Okay.
It was like, let's go to their homeworld, let's find out those origins, and have it eventually end up on Earth.
Okay.
In fact, the original they actually released a teaser trailer for Alien 3 back when like these days teaser trailers are just trailers.
Right.
Back in the day, teaser trailers were like just announcing that the film exists.
Yes.
And it was literally just the title Alien 3, and the new tagline was, on Earth, everyone can hear you scream.
Oh,
That's what the tagline for the film was going to be.
wild.
And so he was like trying to push it in that direction. Obviously, it was going to be super expensive. And the producers of the film kept going like, what if you made it about like prisoners in space, like Alcatraz in space?
Okay.
And he was like, nah, that's not interesting. It kind of just ends up becoming, a bunch of people in a confined space running around with an alien trying to kill them. He's like, that's just like the same movie again.
Okay.
I don't want to do that. And that kind of went back and forth forever. And eventually it reached a point where they clearly weren't going to make the movie that he wanted to make.
Yes.
So he walked away at that point.
Okay.
After that, they then approach Vincent Ward, who's the guy who directed What Dreams May Come.
Okay.
It's probably his most famous film. And he's the guy who comes up with the whole monk concept.
Yes.
About these monks living on essentially a constructed planet.
Is this the wooden ship?
This is the wooden, yeah. So the idea was that they had kind of abandoned technology because they thought it was like evil, and they just wanted to kind of live a more old school kind of
Like
simpler.
ascetic life.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they had a planet that they had essentially, there was like his whole concept was like there was like a core to it that like had technology, but they kind of just ignored it and let it do its thing. And they essentially built a planet of sorts made out of wood around it.
Okay.
Then Ridley,
Now
I'm
getting
saying
confused.
Ridley, yes. Ripley, having escaped the Sulaco, crash lands on this planet of monks, bringing an alien with her. And that was going to be his film. So it's like this whole thing of this like religious order who kind of, this invader comes in, who's
Yes.
a woman. Again, this is the stuff. Some of the stuff still winds up in the other one. It's a society entirely of men.
Right.
A woman comes into this space and brings this evil with her that to them is the devil. The xenomorph to them isn't like an alien being. They're like, the devil is like here.
Wild.
So it has all this like religious connotations. That ends up not working out either.
Because they looked at the wooden ship and they're like, we can't make that.
Yeah.
We can't build that set.
And again, they were like, they kind of had the exact same things. We're like, okay, what if instead of monks, it was about prisoners?
Okay.
What if it was, so they obviously had this thing. It was like, it's going to be a prison colony sort of thing.
Yes.
And we're just going to make that movie, and we're just going to like find a director who we can like force into doing that.
Right.
Yeah. And you can kind of see shades of Vincent Ward's version of this in what became Alien 3.
Okay.
In terms of the society of men. They're quite religious. They kind of like kept some of that. They have this like religious
Yes, there's
society.
like very much like a little bit of a cult there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Like that they kept, and obviously killing off Newton Hicks. That was also a thing.
Which is like such a wild choice.
Yeah.
I'm kind of just like, you have these established characters in your series that you can leverage for drama.
Yes.
Going into your third film, but then they're just going to straight up be murdered.
Yeah.
At the beginning. And Hicks, that's a death and a half, dude. His
Right.
skull just gets completely
Yes.
crushed in.
And Michael Biehn was like not happy about it.
Really?
Yeah. Initially they told him, okay, you're not going to come back for the third one. And he was like, yeah, that's not cool. And then he finds out initially what they were going to reveal was the alien that was in this place like came from him.
Right.
And he's like, no, you're not doing that. If you want to use my likeness, you're not allowed to do that. Like,
Really?
This guy's not killed by an alien. So that's why they came with the thing where he was like crushed by the thing. And apparently like all that they use of him is like there's like a photo of him in like a profile sort of thing.
Yes.
He got paid almost as much as he did for the whole of Aliens.
Just
Just
for
to
that
allow
photo.
just to like allow them to use his
His likeness in that photo.
So he was like,
That
I
is
scored.
wild. Cool. So you still got a paycheck at the end of the day.
But like again, because they mess with canon all the time, canonically Hicks is actually still alive.
Really?
Yes. So it's in a game I've never played. Apparently it's terrible. It's called Aliens Colonial Marines.
Okay.
It's revealed that that's not Hicks. Hicks at some point in like this journey of them all being in
cryosleep.
Cryosleep is woken up and replaced with someone else.
Oh.
And so that's not Hicks in that thing, like canonically.
Oh, crazy.
Yes. So again, like they've like retconned it that Amanda Ripley is actually still alive. She's in cryosleep somewhere. And they're trying to keep that from Ripley for some reason. And Hicks is actually still alive. But Newt's dead.
Yeah. You drowned. You died a horrible death.
Yo, dude. And
That
then
was
you get an
rough.
autopsy.
Yeah, exactly. In the autopsy scene.
Yes.
So, very, very interesting film.
Yeah.
What I was saying was this cinematographer Thompson
Yes.
was hired when Jordan Cronenweth, who's the cinematographer of Blade Runner,
Okay.
left production.
Right.
So that guy had already decided on the aesthetic of the film.
Yes.
And then Thompson was saying that it was really cool to come into a production where the look had been decided and it was the right choice.
Okay.
So he was very sold on that look. So I
Yes.
don't know when Fincher came into the picture. But also discovered reading this article that Fincher was a visual effects storyboarder at ILM.
Okay.
I did not know that. I knew that he was an award-winning commercials and music video
Yeah,
director.
I think he was quite well known for his music videos. I assume that's where he got the
like a
the job
Meatloaf
from.
music video.
Which I mean, yeah, that used to happen all the time. Like Ridley Scott comes from commercials and music
Yes.
videos. Michael Bay comes from commercials and music videos.
Yes.
David Fincher.
I think comparing the music videos that Michael Bay made and the music videos that David Fincher made.
Well, because they were at the same agency.
Oh,
Right?
were they?
Yeah, they basically worked together. And apparently Michael Bay was like kind of obsessed with David Fincher.
Oh,
Like
yeah?
he wanted to see like everything he was doing. Basically followed him, not like literally, but basically like followed him around the office. Because he was like, this dude like has it.
Right.
And Michael Bay was like, I need to learn from this dude.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how David Fincher was brought onto the project at all.
I assume they just kind of went after a director that was like not as experienced, like looking for a feature film.
Oh, so that they could basically
Essentially,
dictate
like
what was going
exactly, because like we're saying, like they kind of brought on these other like slightly more known directors who had like clear ideas of what they wanted to do,
on. Yes.
and then they wanted to make the specific film about prisoners in space.
And then
And
David
then they
Fincher's
just brought
brought
like
on.
a guy on who was like, cool, this guy, he hasn't made any feature films. He's just going to like
So
do
clearly
what
he's
we're
going to
told.
be inexperienced.
Yeah.
And they inadvertently bring on the most famously perfectionistic director in modern
Yes.
cinema.
Yeah.
You know? So that's apparently this open... What was the quote I found? There was a crew member who recalls Fincher being like openly contemptuous of studio oversight on Alien 3,
Yes.
right? It's just not being friends with them.
Yeah.
And says basically the studio responded to him not basically doing everything that they told him to do
Yeah.
by trying to break him.
Right.
And that's why his experience on Alien Cubed,
Yes.
that's what I'm going to call it.
Yeah.
His experience in Alien Cubed was that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Just because there was this kind of just incessant hostility and back and forth
Yes.
between production and direction, right? So it's nuts. And Fincher, for those that don't know, has basically disowned this film.
Yeah. He like never. He's not involved in like the behind the scenes stuff. There's no commentary with him. Like after the film was done, he's like basically never spoken about it since, other than to say that he hates it.
Thing I really want to watch, and it's called Wreckage and Rage: The Making of Alien 3, a 2003 documentary.
Okay.
So documentary is made about this nightmarish production.
Yes.
Fincher was like not getting involved. So he's like the only major crew member that wasn't involved in the making of that documentary.
Right.
The only time Fincher has spoken about Alien 3
Yeah.
since was when he did a guest edit on Empire magazine, because they always get directors in, right?
Yeah.
To do like these guest edited directors features.
Yeah.
And they went through his entire film catalog and had this moment where they basically put up all his most iconic shots.
Right.
And he hates the use of the word iconic. He says it's been like co-opted and it replaces the word memorable.
Oh,
And he says
okay.
people throw the word iconic around far too much.
Yes.
I completely agree with that. But then they showed the shot from Alien 3 where the xenomorph is in Ripley's face.
Yes.
And she's like crying.
It might be like the most well-known shot from the entire franchise.
100%.
Yeah.
Like aside from that poster you've got on your wall of the egg.
Yes.
it's 100% the thing we think of when we think of Alien 3 or Aliens, right?
Yeah, just like the whole franchise, really.
And I'm going to quote what he said about this from this Empire article.
Yeah.
He said, the one shot Fox was happy to put in the trailer, the alien's filing cabinet drawer opening on Sigourney Weaver's face.
Yes.
I always knew he wanted to do it, and it never looked the way I wanted it to. I wanted to light it all behind her.
Right.
It should have been two shapes and silhouettes. We should have had more coverage of it, and we didn't, mostly because we're spending all our fucking time trying to shoot plates for the rod puppet side of the thing.
Right.
So he's clearly frustrated with how much time is being taken away, right?
Yeah.
I think we had an hour and a half to get that. It's powerful because it's a powerful idea. And I don't know if you saw in the Romulus trailer, the shot, the moment where they kind of replicate or allude to that moment.
Okay.
It is gorgeous. It's kind of just the perfect alien image because it takes that and puts all the atmosphere and noise and like billowing mist and smoke all around them, like with wind blowing. I'm just like, it looks like an alien image. I'm so excited. Yeah, so it's the only thing he's ever said about Alien 3
Wild.
since. And that's it.
Yeah.
So just a lot of frustration, right?
Yeah.
But for those that don't know, the theatrical cuts cost the studio a lot of money.
Yeah.
And in 2003, when they release, I think it's 2003, they release an Alien Anthology DVD set.
Yeah.
And for this, because Fincher again was approached and didn't want to be involved, they used his editing notes from the editing room to basically put together what would have been Fincher's cut.
Okay.
And that's called the assembly cut.
Yeah.
Okay, and then after that, there's a special edition feature which cuts out like 10 minutes or something from the assembly cut.
Right.
So I thought I was watching the assembly cut the other night. I wasn't. I was watching the theatrical version.
Right.
And I was really annoyed because I was like, I really wanted to watch it. So I watched it again immediately afterwards.
Okay.
And watched the assembly cut. And it vastly improves on,
It is
I
definitely...
mean, like it makes it better. It's still not like a perfect movie.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, how can you have a perfect movie when all of these issues are going on?
Exactly.
Like from concept when no one's in agreement about what the film should be, right? So that kind of thing sticks. But I think it's a far better Alien movie than Aliens for the reasons we described earlier, right? I'm just getting into aesthetic of this film is clearly a young director with a very powerful vision, right? And it just looks grimy and gritty and gross.
Grubby.
Yeah, it's grubby as hell, dude.
Yeah.
And you can see 100% the beginnings of Fincher's obsession with yellow.
Yeah.
Like it's a yellow film, right? It like it's got that color to it.
Yeah.
But very cool characters in this as well. And that's become a thing, I think. You can see how it's inspired from Alien and then expanded upon by James Cameron. But the idea of this ensemble of characters, right? And then you have this in all of the prisoners who are double Y chromosomed prisoners.
Yes.
Which is a weird idea.
Yeah.
Right? So they've got a double Y chromosome, which makes them, or an added chromosome, that makes them hyperviolent.
Right.
Right? And this is why these guys are all on this planet, and this is why they have taken on, basically become aesthetics. They take on this life of kind of denouncing pleasure and praying and believing in a higher power, etc., to try and like control this group of prisoners. And apparently they get into describing that it was a bigger prison and then it like the funding was stopped or something and then all the prisoners get taken off world, but this cult stays behind.
Yes.
Right? Because they prefer
By
life.
choice, yeah.
By choice, right? And yeah, you got Charles Dance.
Charles Dance.
Man, he was even beautiful back then. His eyes are gorgeous. It's such a cool presence.
Yeah.
He's got this, it's kind of like Lance Henriksen and John Hurt. I think like those are the three major like presence charismatic actors in this series. Absolutely incredible character. Like thoroughly enjoyed. And then all of a sudden this dude is just moored by this alien. Yeah, see, through the hospital bed curtain.
Yes.
And I was kind of frustrated because I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Now we lose good old Charles Dance.
Right.
At least Ripley got laid. I was happy for her amidst all the stress she's experienced from Alien to Aliens. Oh, a friend is staying over, watches Aliens, and goes, when she cuts her hair, they're like, what did she do to her hair? That looks dreadful. Would not shut up about how bad her haircut was. Alien 3 comes along, she shaves her head off because of the lice on the planet.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, thank God. Thank God she got rid of that ugly haircut. I thought that was really funny. Yeah. Great film. Ammo. Like, let me take that back. I don't want to say great film.
No.
Hey, it's a decent film.
Yeah.
Especially the assembly cut. The theatrical cut is a mess.
Yeah.
Because they cut out so many of the things that connect you to the characters. And in the theatrical cut, it's kind of just like, oh, these people are here.
Yes.
and they're tagging along. Who are they? I don't care about them.
Yeah.
Right. So the theatrical cut does a good opportunity of giving these prisoners like some kind of personality, gives them stories, and it does make it a little bit more compelling to watch.
Yeah.
But the thing I didn't like that they changed from the theatrical cuts is, for those that don't know, spoiler, we've already discussed a ton of those in this chat, is that Ripley sacrifices herself at the end.
Yes.
She kills herself because the Weyland-Yutani Corporation have come to this prison in order to take out the queen that's busy growing inside of her.
Yes.
And then they can obviously use that for their weapons research and everything that they're doing. Expansion of the interest of the corporation is really cool in this, from the first one to the second to the third, where you actually see them coming to take the alien, which I enjoyed. But then when she sacrifices herself, because she's like, you're not going to take it from me.
Yeah.
And they're lying to her, saying, we'll keep you alive, we'll take the alien out and kill it, is how they're trying to go to her initially. Is that she backs off and jumps into the furnace.
Yes.
But then in the theatrical cuts, the chest burster comes out of her.
Right.
And then she like obviously falls into the furnace in the Christ pose because she's the savior of life, basically. And then she grabs onto and holds onto the queen, who's like screaming in her face, like, no, don't kill me, no. And she's holding onto it. And I was like, that's a pretty powerful image. I kind of like the idea of her holding onto this thing that's the reason why she's killing herself.
Yes.
And this thing that's completely messed up her life, right? So she had a very normal life, and then this happened. But then they took out the chest burster in the assembly cut.
Yeah.
Wasn't a fan
I
of
suppose
that.
they added it in initially.
Yes.
Because...
Oh, maybe because we're going according to Finch's original editing notes. But yeah, the thoughts on it?
I'm kind of indifferent. I don't hate it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I think
it's very mid.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the thing about it is, even under all of that, you can kind of still see Fincher in it. Fincher is there.
Yes,
and it is
100%.
a Fincher movie.
Yes,
you know, to an extent at least.
Like great shots.
Yeah, and it's just good character actors. Charles Dance, Pete Postlethwaite.
Oh my word,
Pete Postlethwaite freaking shows up in this thing.
Yeah,
who, as we've mentioned a few times, according to Steven Spielberg, is the greatest actor of all time.
Seriously,
yeah,
dude, he's just likable.
Yeah,
don't know what else to say.
Yes,
I don't know what his best role is. But my favorite is Dragonheart.
Oh, really? Yeah.
That's where I know him from as a kid, where he's playing the monk.
Yeah.
Like a comedic relief monk.
Yes.
In a dragon movie.
Yeah.
Wild.
Apparently, at least in part, getting rid of Newt was actually, at least to an extent, Sigourney Weaver's idea.
Oh.
Yeah, because Sigourney Weaver is like, plays a character that works best in isolation.
Okay.
She's like a character who, like, even if she wants the things that, like, she could have gotten from Hicks and Newt, she kind of can't have them. Like, always keeping that out of her reach is sort of really important to this character.
Interesting.
Also, being killed off was her idea. She was like, I don't want to do another one. Considering she did do another one, but she was like, you have to kill her off. That is like, she wouldn't have been in the movie if they hadn't, like, agreed to, like, Ripley off. Yeah.
So a lot of different interests and vested parties in this film.
Yeah. Like, early versions of the script either didn't have her at all or had her in, like, a very small role. Like, there were early versions where it was, like, mostly about Hicks, and she was going to be in, like, cryosleep or something. Just, like, so if she was going to be in it, it would just be, like, a tiny role because they didn't think she was going to come back. But she's like, cool, I'll do one more. Yes. And you have to kill her off.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So, how does Alien Resurrection happen then?
Probably money.
Okay, I don't blame her.
Money, and an extent, apparently she really liked the script.
Okay.
Like, she was a big fan of, like, because it isn't a per se.
Right.
It's a clone. It's a completely new person, character, whatever. I think that was, like, made her okay with it.
Okay. You can see how she's interested in it because she's got a familiar character that she can do something new with.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Ripley being so for those that don't know, I don't know if you'd be listening if you haven't watched the film. Like, it doesn't make sense, sorry. So Ripley is essentially this hybrid clone of xenomorph and human, right? In order to be a mother host to an alien queen.
Exactly.
Right? And what she does with the characterization is really interesting because she kind of has to embody the hostility of the xenomorph. Mm-hmm. And she kind of turns into this dumb mommy. Wearing this really weird, like, sleeveless leather vest.
Yeah.
I was just looking at this with my friends. I watched with a bunch of friends. We're like, what is she wearing?
Well, the idea is that it's meant to sort of replicate the look of the xenomorph.
Totally. And it does. Yeah. but why is that on that ship? It's kind of just like it's a decision that's made for the sake of the aesthetic and not for the world building, right? So it doesn't necessarily work. But you have a motley crew that's very typical of Joss Whedon.
Yes.
Right? So is this post Firefly or pre Firefly?
I think it's probably around about the time of Buffy. So I think it's pre-Firefly.
Oh, it is. It's 1997.
Yeah.
So what's crazy is we kept on looking at the green and the shadows in this movie because I was watching with the cinematographer. And he was like saying, oh, this must have been inspired by The Matrix. This must have been inspired by The Matrix. It's pre-Matrix.
Yes.
Which is interesting because The Matrix is a very iconic film in terms of its look. Right? And inspired a whole bunch of films after it. So it was super interesting to have this film directed by a French art house director. This is a bizarre choice.
What a choice.
What a choice. But what it does do is it creates a lot of beautiful pictures.
Right.
And goddamn, this film's gorgeous. It's got a lot of weird comedic camera moves.
Such a weird sense of humor, this film.
It's a bizarre sense of humor. Ron Perlman is gold. He's kind of like a spiritual...
Ron Perlman's always gold.
Yeah, exactly. He's kind of a spiritual successor to Bill Paxton in this anthology series. Like in a very loose
Bill
way.
Paxton's character was an asshole.
Yes, exactly. An asshole with no brain kind of thing is what this guy is played off as. But this film is gorgeous. There's this moment at the end where Winona Ryder and Sigourney Weaver are looking out into the clouds of Earth, and the shot of them is just incredible.
Yes.
It's just gorgeous. I don't know how else to describe
it. It was shot by Darius Konji.
Who is?
Guy who shot Seven.
Ooh.
Uncut Gems, Panic Room. Yeah, like...
Oh, God.
He's like the real deal.
A top tier
cinematographer. It makes sense why it looks so good.
Yes. And I mean, it's aged incredibly well.
Okay.
So the matte paintings, the exteriors of the ship, feel like it's very much a total upgrade of that heavy metal aesthetic.
Yes.
Like taken to some sort of large scale extreme.
Yes.
Right? So I'm such a fan of the look of this movie.
Right.
But then also, I think it's the best the Xenomorphs have ever looked.
Okay.
Because they're like dripping in water first.
Oh yeah, they are
so
like
they're
real.
Always like super glossy.
Wet.
Yeah. So there's like this deep contrast with the black carapaces of the aliens with the like highlights of the water droplets on the carapace.
Okay.
And then also in like close-up shots, you can always see that ring, that eye lights. That's kind of like a ring lights in every single shot, just for no reason because it looks pretty.
Yes.
Right. So it's highly contrasted. It's got deep shadows.
Yeah.
I was just like, that's my one note for this movie, because I'm irrationally like it because of how good it looks.
Okay.
But yeah, so the comedic stuff is just bizarre when it starts to happen. You've got these weird shoulder-mounted shots that like zoom into someone's face, and then there's, of course, it's the 90s, so there's like a Dutch tilt here, there's a Dutch tilt there.
Yeah.
You're just like, it's bizarre in terms of...
It's a bit off the wall.
Yeah, it's style sometimes.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on it overall?
I hate it. I do agree that like it does look good. I think it has a really good score.
Oh, it scores fantastic.
Very good. Like sets and like practical effects are really good.
Yes.
I don't know. I think design-wise, I'm not super crazy about the Xenomorphs.
Okay.
But I think they are like technically really well executed. I think they're kind of straying too far into like movie monster by this point.
Okay.
And the thing that really works about it, especially the alien in the original Alien, is that there's still something like human about it. Because you remember, like the Xenomorph kind of takes on, is supposed to at least kind of take on the attributes of whatever it comes out of. That's why the one in Alien 3 looks so different, because it comes out of either a dog or a cow, depending on which one you watch. So it's much more animalistic, and like it runs around on all fours and that sort of thing.
Yes.
This one kind of like loses that like unsettlingness of it being kind of human.
Yes.
It's like straight monster.
Right.
You know, but again, technically it's super well like executed. But I find this one is... the other movies can be like grotesque and kind of like violent and frightening or whatever they are, but this one is like mean-spirited in a way.
Okay.
Like it's like a cruel film.
Yes.
That I don't like about it. I don't think it like quite fits like the tone of the other movies in this franchise.
Okay.
In that kind of, and it's also like kind of all of Joss Whedon's like worst aspects really come out in it.
Oh,
It's very misogynistic.
I was watching it with a woman.
Okay, yeah.
It's fascinating to just sit there and you kind of balk at half of the lines where you're just like, oh, gross.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's like, even if the characters are like kind of funny, I don't think any of them are likable.
Oh,
like, I don't want any of them. Like, when one dies, I'm like, I'm fine with this.
I'm fine with
I'm
this.
cool that they're all
I
dead
mean,
by the
I
end.
kind of complained when the hot people died, but I'm a basic bitch. Like the captain of the Betty that arrives on the ship.
Okay.
This man is like this contrabass speaker with this like smoky voice.
Yes.
Just like, who are you? Why do you sound so sexy? I don't know if it's because it's like got a French aesthetic because of this director, but this guy's just hot. And then there's a beautiful shot of his like girlfriend / lieutenant's bum.
Yes.
When he's giving her a foot massage and she's making
right.
sex noises. Unwarranted. You're just like, why is this here?
Yes.
These two are having a great time on holiday, delivering prisoners to the ship. But then they both die. Yeah, the deaths are hectic in this.
Yeah.
I remember the one that I watched. I told you I watched this when I was 11. My cousins came from the UK and they're like, let's watch this movie.
Wow.
I'm like, obviously, okay, cool. Let's be naughty. Should not have watched this movie.
Yes.
Because the weird guy who looks like... It's the actor from... Oh, it's Levy. I think Levy. He looks like Martin Scorsese.
Okay.
It's an American Pie.
Right.
And Schitt's
Eugene
Creek.
Levy?
Eugene Levy.
He's not in this.
What I'm saying is you have the low budgets. We have Eugene Levy at home
Yes.
playing the commando lieutenant person,
Okay.
right? So he kind of
Yes.
looks like him,
Okay.
but not.
Yes.
And weirdly like comical in his characterization,
Yes.
which is also a part of the problem with the tone of this movie. But there's a moment where the xenomorph takes a bite out of the back of his head.
Yes.
And then he pulls out a piece of his brain and looks at it like squint-eyed, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then cuts away. It's just like, horrified me as an
Yeah.
11-year-old. I was just like, what the fuck? Should not have watched this.
Yeah, no, understandable.
Yeah, also, like, and by the end of this movie, the 4 friends I was watching this with,
Yes.
like, the whole room was just laughing at the, like, space vacuum death of the human xenomorph
Yes.
child thing.
I hate that thing.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
No.
We were kind of wishing it had subtitles to translate what it was saying. When it's looking at mom with its eyes, which
Yeah.
are really weird.
Yeah.
It's got like human eyes.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's looking at Ruby like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
I thought that we were just laughing because
Yeah.
it's so stupid.
Yeah.
It's like you're looking and you're like, what is this? And it's making weird noises. You're just like, this is meant to be played off as a tragedy.
Yeah.
But I don't know, this thing just looks ridiculous. So it's an insane image that you're seeing. And then so it's difficult to engage with it dramatically.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I gave it 3 stars on Letterboxd.
That's generous.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people don't
So
like
what you're
it.
saying is Aliens is only half a star better than Alien Resurrection.
Yeah.
Wild.
And I'm sorry to the Alien people out there. I'm very, very sorry to the Aliens fans. I do love this series.
Yeah.
But like I think this era, like anything post-Alien, has been incredibly mid for me. I think like they have their strengths.
Yeah.
Just in terms of getting to that coherent Alien picture for me.
Yeah.
Is maybe I'm being a bit of a purist. I'm sorry. But yeah, bizarre movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely bizarre choice. Works out in some instances. Fucking
Yeah.
doesn't work in most instances.
Just goes into strange places. I don't like you're saying, they call it the newborn. Is that like new?
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's like referred to as the newborn. And I think you can do monsters that are like ugly cool. This thing's just ugly.
Yeah.
I don't want to look at it. It's not.
I don't want to look at it at all.
If this is meant to be like I don't know if they ever actually intended for it to be like the franchise replacement for the Xenomorph.
Yes.
No.
No. Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. It looks terrible. It looks ugly. Don't want to look at it.
No.
Doesn't look cool.
No.
Unlike that freaking white thing in Alien Covenant.
Oh, the little one, the freaky little one that comes out and
Yes.
just rips people apart.
Yes.
That thing's wild.
And then when it grows up and then it stands up behind that one person that's just kind of breathing and standing
Yes.
on 2 legs. Like, this is kind of scary.
Yeah.
I was kind of impressed with that with Alien Covenants, how it just went into the space of taking a xenomorph and just making it kind of new, but
Yeah.
it kind of works.
Yes.
It's not the xenomorph, but it kind of works.
Yeah. We're jumping ahead a little bit here.
We are, sorry. But I think we want to get off Resurrection as soon as possible.
I don't have a lot to say
I think
about
I'd
it.
reduce it to a 2.5 star. That kind of makes
I
sense.
think I gave it a 1.5.
But I've still got a fondness for it. That's really weird.
Nostalgia, bro. It's powerful.
It's so powerful,
Yeah.
dude. I can't get rid of it. I mean, I have with the Phantom Menace, but that's another discussion.
Yeah.
Don't watch movies from your childhood.
No.
20 years on, 30 years on. Don't
Well,
do
some
it.
things are beyond criticism.
Yes.
And I'll still criticize them. The Lion King. But that's a different discussion. So, next, Prometheus. I don't think we'll have a huge amount to say about the next two, but we should still discuss them.
Yeah, we should still discuss them.
Yeah.
Originally, I don't know if it was originally written by John Spates.
I think it was.
Was it? He was the first writer, and he was going to call it Alien Engineers.
Okay.
Am I like gripe in hindsight with this film? Is it's not
Yes.
called Alien Prometheus or Alien Engineers?
Kind of, because it's not really an alien movie.
That does make sense.
You know, like
Yes.
they kept like in this, like Ridley Scott in particular was very much like in like before it came out, it was like it's not an alien. That's why we're not calling it alien because it's not an alien movie. And everyone was like, come on, it's an alien movie.
Yes.
No, it's an alien movie. And then it comes out and everybody goes, no, it wasn't an alien movie. You know, it's like they told us.
They told us that it wasn't going to be an
Like,
alien
they didn't put
movie.
alien in the title for a reason. We
Right.
get the little fan service moments at the end where we get like that.
The Deacon.
Is that what it's called? Okay,
Yeah.
that's like a proto-xenomorph.
Yes, that's
almost.
made from the engineers.
Yes.
And that weird giant octopus facehugger thing.
Yeah, the gigantic. Yeah.
Yeah. How did the thing get so big?
How does the alien get so big?
No.
Chest burst is like a little guy.
Yeah, exactly. And they grow really quickly. But yeah, so another film that kind of went through a series of rewrites.
Yes.
And there seems to be a lot of disagreements on what a film in the series should be,
Yes.
right? Because John Spaeth has this idea with engineers. And by the way, the original script is online. You can download it.
Okay.
Alien Engineers by John Spaeths. I don't know if
Okay.
I'm pronouncing your name
Yeah.
right, John. I'm sorry. But interesting idea, and I can't remember it,
Oh, really?
which is annoying.
I've never read it, so I don't know.
I did
Okay.
read it, but it's been years,
Right.
which is terrifying, but it has been years. And I think my favorite thing about chatting about Prometheus, I mean, I have my personal gripes with this film.
Yes.
One, it's a modern Ridley Scott sci-fi.
Yeah.
So it just
Which he's
looks...
very good at.
Oh, dude.
Like aesthetic-wise, he's so good at it. You look at this and you look at The Martian.
Oh, yes.
Gorgeous.
Brilliant movies. Like, again, his thing of... I don't know what I want to call it to try and coin it.
Yes.
But this Ridley Scott aesthetic, that's
Yeah.
like... It's dense with texture. It's dirty. I don't know if people know this, but if you've ever had a conversation with a cinematographer talking about lenses, they always talk about a dirty lens.
Yes.
As if it's like a good quality
Yeah.
lens.
Not literally
right?
dirty, but
Yeah,
exactly. It has like attributes
quality.
that like it becomes a very particular look to that lens.
Exactly.
Like lenses that have interesting fringing and like they do interesting things with lens flares.
Yes.
You know, their bokeh is really interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which took me forever, by the way, to realize it's not spelled bouquet like flowers.
Yes.
It's like spelled bokeh, like some kind of way like that. Annoying. But anyways, it's that Ridley Scott look that
Yes.
looks... And it's interesting to see the modern digital version of that,
Yeah.
right? That's not film.
Yes.
Where James Cameron's kind of looks crisp.
Yeah.
And Ridley's kind of looks crisp in a way that's digital.
Yeah.
But it doesn't lose any of that in-camera, like, density
Yeah.
of texture. That's so cool. And again, you and I have spoken a lot about the start of Alien 1.
Yes.
And I remember telling me that you miss movies that were as slow as Alien 1 was when
Yeah.
it started.
Yeah.
Right? Just beautiful. Just like nothing happening.
Yeah.
Just watching these people wake up. And the cool, I suppose, updates of this in Prometheus is David walking around the Prometheus while everyone's
Yes.
sleeping, learning about humanity, learning about history, learning languages. Because he obviously knows what his mission is from Wayland. Right? And then he has to study, like, I don't know, ancient human languages
Yes.
in order to potentially communicate with their creators. Right? So you only figure that out later that's what he's been doing. But still a cool way to interpret the start of Alien and kind of put it on this movie and remake it and retell it in a new, interesting way. So very, very cool.
Yes.
Beautiful film, looks great. My thing about talking about Prometheus is I have plot gripes.
Okay.
There are extended scenes that were cut from it that you can watch on the Blu-ray,
Okay.
which are all very fucking cool.
Okay.
And I'm kind of annoyed. It's that like deeper insight into character stuff
Yes.
that kind of takes away from pacing, arguably. I don't know.
Yeah.
But still just makes you get more attached to these people that you're going to start watching getting killed off, which I think is kind of
Okay.
important.
Yes.
But yeah, my conversation about Prometheus, and especially why I love Prometheus and Alien Covenants, is in tandem the discussion about David. But
Yeah.
let's not go there yet.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Prometheus? We've talked about
I-
this a lot, actually.
Like Prometheus.
Yes.
It's kind of one of those movies that I like probably more than it deserves, in spite of itself.
Okay.
You know, it's like Zack Snyder movies in a way. I like them in spite of themselves.
Right. So you
Some
can
of them at
understand
least.
why they don't work
Yes.
or what's wrong with them.
Or like where the disconnect there is.
Yes.
But then I kind of get distracted by, okay, I am a sucker for spacesuits and spaceships.
Okay.
Well-designed spacesuits and well-designed spaceships
Yes.
are the greatest thing in the world.
Yes.
And Prometheus maybe has the best spaceship ever.
Yeah,
The Prometheus itself
it's fucking
is
rad.
beautiful.
Like with its 4 engines, like becoming forward thrusters, and then when
Yes.
it lands, they turn downwards,
Yeah.
and then it uses the
Like
fucking
it's so
cool.
like real and grounded and practical. Like it feels like
Yes.
a real thing. But it's
Yes.
also like so amazing to
It's
look
not like
at.
the Naboo cruiser, right,
Yes.
which is like this needle flying through
Yeah.
space. Yeah.
It's like that's like there's something to say there about like this ship that's aesthetic first,
Yes.
like how opulent that society is. But anyway, and like the space suits are great. I think the Martian is the best space suits ever. But yeah, I just love the way it looks. I really like the lead. I think the character's name is Shaw,
Yes.
played by Numi Rapace.
Yes.
Really great. I think she's
Amazing.
very, very good in this.
Yeah.
That whole there's one scene in this film that like elevates the entire movie,
Okay.
which is like the abortion scene where she has the
Yeah.
alien in her and she has to cut it out of herself.
Yes.
Incredible.
Like
Incredible.
you're right
scene.
about like one scene elevating the entire scene,
Yeah.
and you can kind of forgive it for the rest of the misgivings. Like my one misgiving, for example, is the animal person.
Oh, right.
I don't know what we call the animal scientist.
Biologist.
Pilot? Yeah. Damn it. Why did I know that? But the biologist, who's the specialist in the crew, looking at the alien that's got clearly like a cobra hood,
Oh, right.
and being like, "Oh, hey, little guy," and putting his hand towards it. You're like, what are you doing? Like, you shouldn't be doing that.
I suppose the argument you could make there.
Yeah.
So I guess technically he'd be a xenobiologist. I think that's the term for
Oh, like
people
alien.
who study things that aren't from Earth.
Okay.
Is that if you think about life evolving on an entirely different planet,
Yes.
behaviorally not going to imitate anything from Earth.
Right.
Like I think
Even though aesthetically it's
unrelated.
got, yeah.
Like I was watching a documentary at one point about like the whole ancient alien nonsense.
Okay.
And how people think like aliens have like interbred with human beings and that sort of thing. And this one dude said a human being has a better chance of being able to mate with a petunia than with an alien because at least they evolved on the same planet.
Right.
And it's just like that sort of thing of like how, well,
Difference.
obviously what they don't understand at that point in time is that life on Earth evolved from the engineers. And like
Yes.
obviously if they're from the same place or they have any kind of relation to each other,
Yes.
they're going to like, you know, copy genetics in some way. So the behavior and the look might imitate each other in some
Yes.
way. So I guess you could like make an argument there, okay, if this is a species that's evolved on an entirely different planet,
Yes.
someone's not going to assume that its behavior is going to replicate something from Earth.
Right.
If you want to dig into it too much.
Yes, exactly. If you want to
Obviously,
try and-
the thing there for like the audience is going to say, "Oh, this thing's dangerous," because we immediately understand what that means.
Exactly. Like evolutionarily, we're
yeah.
like, oh, that's a cobra hood.
Yes, exactly.
But then you don't know how it's going to behave as an alien.
Exactly.
100%. I can see why that makes sense.
But you have to like
But then he
overthink
gets
it.
deep-throated by the thing.
He gets messed up.
Yeah.
First, it like breaks his arm in half.
Oh, yes.
That's
Yeah.
brutal.
It is brutal.
Timothy-
Really cool about that alien. Sorry, the further discussion is that it comes from the bombs.
Yes.
Right? It comes from the viscous fluid
Yeah.
that's meant to destroy life. But then
Yeah.
it's really interesting. In this, it becomes something when it comes into contact with water.
Yes.
So clearly, this thing's got this ability to kill life in Covenant, as you'll see.
Yeah.
But it's got also this ability to create life, which is,
Exactly.
again, like the more you think about this movie and talk about it,
Yeah.
the idea is so fucking rich. It's rich with content, right?
Yes.
It's rich with interesting ideas. So when you get into connecting it with Covenants
Yes.
and the idea of David, the AI,
Yeah.
and the inclusion of its creator,
Yes.
who's Wayland, played by Guy Pearce,
Yeah.
looks terrible.
Yes.
It's like, just get an old guy to play an old guy. What are you
Yes.
doing? Like, as soon as they put a young guy in old guy makeup, every time you're just like,
Yeah.
you can't buy it.
Yeah.
Just like the opposite is true. I was talking with my boyfriend about this today. When you have an old person that's been de-aged, like you're watching The Irishman and you're watching 80-year-old Robert De Niro play a 40-year-old guy kicking
Yes.
a guy in the street, and he's got these like arthritic shoulders.
Exactly.
Shoulders, and you're like, this looks stupid.
Yeah.
This looks insane. Like, "Meh." But then in this thing, you have a young guy being like, I'm
Yes.
crooked and I have bad hips.
But there are originally like flashbacks where he was younger.
Yes,
like
there
deleted.
was.
Okay, that kind of makes sense.
Yes, there's a really cool like short film promo that they did for this.
Right.
And they did it for Covenants as
They
well.
did a few for Covenant. There was like a series of shorts.
Yeah. And in this one, they made a short where Wayland, what's his full name? Oh man, I should know that. Where he's giving like a tech conference keynote speech.
Okay.
I don't know what it's about. I think it's about David or something. As young Guy Pearce, and it's really
Yes.
fucking cool.
Okay.
Like there's a lot of rich stuff and content around Alien, Prometheus, and Alien Covenant.
Yes.
But you should definitely go check it out online.
Yeah.
It's
Peter
so much fun.
Wayland, by the way.
Peter Wayland.
Peter Wayland,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yes. So the idea of David and the crisis of a creation and its creator, and then extending beyond that from humans to the engineers.
Yes.
Right? And then what's David's solve for this crisis of going on this journey of his creator finding his creation
Yeah.
and realizing how, in a way, flawed humans are,
Yes.
right? Like, and kind of reduces them to being hosts for his new creation.
Yeah.
It's like a really fucking cool idea.
Yes.
Like, I haven't seen someone expand upon AI like this. Then again, I'm not knee deep in science fiction,
Yeah.
like writing, like early 20th century stuff, Arthur C. Clarke, Philip K. Dick.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on there, but it's just in terms of the cinema canon, at least, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's really fucking cool.
It is really well done.
And
He's the best like
interesting.
addition, like in terms of like if you like try and take something that each film sort of added to it.
Right.
I think what Prometheus adds to Alien, David is like incredible.
An incredible
So good.
character. And
And so well acted,
characterized.
yeah.
Yeah. Fassbender nailed that shit.
Yeah.
Nailed that shit.
Yes.
Terrible sentence. I'm sorry. It's a fan of Charlize Theron.
But I'm going to be honest, I very seldom am.
Oh, okay.
I think she like overacts a lot.
Yes.
I know, to me, her accent always sounds fake.
Okay.
Like, I think she like taught herself to speak with an American accent, and now it is her real accent.
Yes.
I think that is genuinely the way she talks, but because people pick up accents, that sort of thing when they leave. I think when she was like kind of learning an American accent, she learns a fake American accent.
Right.
And she always sounds like she's talking with a fake American accent.
Right.
It always
Yes.
bothers me. And I don't think she's particularly well written in this either.
No.
I think it's just not a great character.
Not a great character. Idris Elba, on the other hand,
Awesome.
so fucking
Just
cool.
like for the most part, again, like we talk about this with Aliens and
Yes.
Alien, and even to an extent Resurrection, like just character, like really good characters and character actors that kind of like fill things out.
Yes.
You know, like Idris Elba, Benedict Wong, love
Yes.
Benedict Wong so much. He's amazing. And then the dude who plays like Shaw's boyfriend guy who
Yes.
ends up getting who dies as well. I
Yes.
can't remember that actor's name, but he's like also just good actors, just like kind of
Yes.
filling out the space.
Like, even though it's like arguably a minor role.
Yes.
It's like not that important, quote unquote, but it's just interesting.
Yes.
Like, they're interesting people to see in this situation.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's really fucking cool.
And Sean Harris as well is in it.
Oh my God.
He's great.
Sean Harris is so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Like, also an interesting character to put in that situation.
Yes. Because he's playing such a grub.
Yeah.
He's playing
He's
this
a total
awful
grub.
guy. You're like, I don't like this guy.
Oh, with his little robot scanners of the ship.
Yes.
Which are really cool.
Yeah.
Again, a moment to like appreciate something for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Just the technology.
That reminds me, I have to like rant slightly.
Oh.
People always do this thing where they complain about this movie where the map guy gets lost and they think it's stupid.
Oh, like,
People do
why is
that.
the guy who made the map of the alien ship getting lost in the alien ship?
Yes. First of all, he's not the map guy. Geologist, he's not a cartographer.
Oh.
Different things.
Different
and you'll know
things.
this. Admittedly, you have to really be paying attention, but at one point he says, I'm a geologist.
Okay.
So you know that he's a geologist. Second of all, the reason it's him and Rafe Spall's character.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember their names. I did remember their names, but whatever. This dude, who's the guy who gets lost, right, is essentially having like a panic attack because this place is like freaking him out so much, and he's like, I need to get the hell out of here.
Yes.
So he's just going to leave. And then Rafe Spall's character goes with him.
Yes.
It's not unreasonable to think that a person who's in a building that no one has ever been in before, on a planet that no one's ever been on before, is going to get lost.
100%.
That's not illogical.
No, it's not.
Like, there's this thing about, especially with horror movies, where like a criticism of characters doing something illogical is
Yes.
considered like a valid criticism.
right.
But people doing illogical things in stressful situations is like the most realistic part of horror movies.
100%.
You know?
Like, you're not going to act rationally.
No, human beings. If the last several years have taught us anything, it's that human beings have a vested interest in doing anything that's against their own best interests.
Yeah.
Like, history has now taught us that.
100%. If Jason Voorhees shows up next to my car window,
Yes.
I'm going to drop my car keys.
Yeah.
You know?
You're gonna panic.
People always talk about that with horrors. Like, why did they drop the keys? And I'm just like, you will be stressed out, dude.
Exactly.
You're about to be killed with a machete.
Yeah.
Like, fumble
Yeah.
your keys.
I don't think that's a valid criticism.
It's not a valid criticism. I agree with you.
In fact, the fact that they don't get lost more often is frankly more unrealistic.
Yes. What's the deal with the weird thing that her boyfriend turned into?
So they take one of those like weird egg-looking things, almost obviously meant to be like a pre-version, and David takes the whatever's in them.
Yeah.
There's like some, because you can see he like looks at it and we get this like close up and you can see little things, like little
Yes.
spermy looking things almost, like swimming
Yes.
around in that. And just as an experiment, just to see what happens, David puts it in his drink and gives it
Which
to him.
is wild.
Yeah.
Which is, again, why David's such this interesting layered character.
Yep.
Is like, oh, clearly this android doesn't have... Is it Philip K. Dick that wrote iRobots? Isaac Asimov.
Isaac Asimov,
Who
yeah.
like this idea of the robots that...
Yes, the three
are-
laws.
Yeah,
Yeah.
are built to not betray its core function
Yeah.
in like harming humans or overtaking humans, etc.,
Yes.
etc. But he does it anyway, just
Yeah.
because he's curious.
Yeah.
Which is like an interesting seed for what happens in Covenant, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like really interesting. But why does he do that? Why?
Yes.
And that's not answered, which is compelling. I think it's very interesting. But this thing gets into his blood, and then he has sex with his girlfriend Elizabeth Shaw, and then impregnates her with this octopus thing
Yeah.
that gets taken out of her.
Yes.
Wild scene, as we've spoken about.
Yeah.
But then it's inside of his eye, and then he starts to mutate and morph from the inside out.
Yeah.
I suppose it's just like how unpredictable the way this thing behaves is. The
Yeah.
thing that these engineers use to create life at the start of the film.
Yes.
Assuming that that's the same thing. Right? So I suppose it's kind of just like we don't really have to understand it.
Yes.
But I'm not a fan of man mutate into weird amorphous beast that
Oh,
goes
right.
"Roar," and then
Yes.
fucks people up.
Yeah.
Oh, and so that also happened to the actor that we were talking about earlier, geologist.
Yes.
Also happens to him. He
Yeah.
comes back as no, I'm getting confused.
No, it's the other guy. It's Sean Harris's character.
Sean Harris's character comes
Yeah.
back as the monster. Sorry,
Yes.
I'm getting confused. What happens to the boyfriend again?
So they realize that he's sick.
Yes.
Like this thing is like, because if it's the same stuff.
Oh, they burn him alive.
No, that's Sean Harris.
That's
They do
Sean
that.
Harris. I'm so confused.
I can't remember what it is. I think it just like basically kills him. Like they put him in like a quarantine thing and it kills him. If I remember, again, I haven't watched this in a little while.
Yes.
But because if it's the same stuff, right at the beginning of the film, you see an engineer and they take the little like black liquid thing and it drinks it.
Yes.
And it just like breaks, it like literally like physically breaks him down to like
Yes.
DNA essentially. And then that's what seeds the world.
Yes.
And I guess taking the small amount, even like a much smaller amount, and putting it in his drink is like kind of breaking down his genetic, basically. His like whole genetic structure.
That is so
That's why he starts like bleeding from his eyes and that sort of thing.
Oh my god. But what's really interesting about this is in the director's commentary that was clearly filmed for this anthology DVD release in 2003,
Yes.
Ridley was talking about the times that he's been asked to come back to do Alien and saying, I'm not interested in what happens after.
Right.
I'm interested in going back to where the space jockey's from
Yes.
and the derelict ship.
Yeah.
Like, where do those things come from? Who are these people? So that was clearly on his mind for like
Yes.
a very, very long time
Yeah.
before making Prometheus and getting into this moment where we see, and it's interesting, it kind of deals, there's a lot of religious iconography that's embedded into Prometheus and
Yeah.
Alien Covenant, right? So we're on a search for meaning and for life. And they even talk about, they kind of allude to the idea that Jesus was an engineer,
Yes.
which was really interesting,
Yeah.
that came to Earth. But then you essentially see God at the start of the film Prometheus, like seed life on the entire planet,
Yes.
right? Which is nuts.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just humanity.
I
Or other
assume
animal
it has
species?
to be implied that it happens elsewhere.
Yes.
Just because of the scale that they're clearly doing it on,
Yes.
you know?
Like seeding a whole bunch of planets. Yeah. Okay, Covenant.
I love Covenant.
Covenant's great.
Covenant rules.
Covenant's really good.
Yeah.
Like, I think it kind of feels like it's been a little bit forgotten,
Maybe.
but I fucking love Chase Burster coming out the back,
Yes.
which is unhinged. Did you ever see the 360 video
No.
that came out around that time? So Graeme and
That's
I went
wild.
to the studio that did a lot of 360 video and virtual reality.
Yeah.
And around the time of Alien Covenant, they released this promo where you were the Chase Burster.
Oh,
That came
wild.
out of this person's back in a 360 video,
Jeez.
which is really cool. So inside, you look around and you can see like a beating heart
Yes.
inside a human body,
Yeah.
and then you start to like hear the bone breaking sounds, and then you go out onto the floor and you're like,
Yes.
oh, the thing, which is really cool. I like that
That's
kind of
cool.
multi-platform storytelling.
Yes. That's fine.
This film starts off really well
Yes.
because James Franco dies.
Yes, he does. James Franco gets cooked.
Yeah, he gets cooked
Yeah.
in his cryotube. So sorry to him and
bye.
anyone that came to watch James Franco in this movie, because you're going to be disappointed.
Yes. No, he's not in it at all, actually.
No. It's like you see his
bizarre.
face. Do you even see him acting being burned?
No,
You just
because
see him in
they're in like the cryo sleep thing. So I think he's like unconscious when it happens.
Yeah.
You just see a picture of him with like, and there's like a crew picture that he's
Yeah.
in. And I think with one of the he may have been in one of the shorts because they did those short movies that came before us. Yeah, I think he may have been in one of those.
So really cool for anyone to go and watch, by the way.
Yes.
Are these shorts.
Yeah.
But the entire point of Covenants is to kind of develop David's idea becoming a god in himself, right?
Yes.
Our creation undoing us by creating more life that can evolutionarily essentially become top of the food chain, like the perfect being.
Yes.
Is what David creates. And it's suggested, I mean, it's not suggested, we're told
Yeah.
that David engineers the facehugger.
Yes.
He builds the facehugger from the parts of Elizabeth Shaw,
Yeah.
right?
Something like that, or at least at the very least, he's dissected her to learn about human biology in some way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you don't know if it's like the same, if it's just dissecting her too. But I thought that he used her to create the facehugger.
Possible.
Yeah. Because then that's the entire thing of him getting a spaceship full of people at the end.
Yes.
Right? Which is nuts.
Yeah.
So then does that become the derelict?
No,
'cause
it's a completely
spaceship.
different ship. Like
Yeah.
the derelict looks like the same ships that the engineers use.
I'm being an idiot.
So he
Yeah.
somehow, like, they've never really explained like where that ship comes from. They
Yes.
don't really need to.
They don't
Like,
really
we kind
need
of have
to.
an answer.
Yeah, but then we don't have alien eggs on the derelict ship and
Yes.
how that happened and
Exactly.
how David got a hold of one.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm really bleak we're not getting another film.
Well, it kind of raises questions about, like, in the original Alien, they get the signal and they have, like, it stops their current mission and they have to go and investigate.
Yes.
Crew expendable, that whole thing.
Yes.
Like, does that happen because the company is looking for David? Like, if you retcon this thinking, essentially they know David's out there and they know what he's doing.
Yes.
And they need to find him because they want to use what he's doing
Yes.
as a weapon. So is that why they're willing to, like, be crew expendable, like, go to any lengths to find this guy?
Yes.
So anything that's associated with that, they know the signal is somehow associated with engineers and the ships, and they'll go,
Kind of makes sense.
yeah,
It kind of makes sense because, I mean, if Peter Wayland went on this journey to find our creators,
yes,
you know, then the company would know and have all that information.
yes,
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I like that idea. Great film, I think. Great alien.
oh, yeah,
Like that weird, I don't know, what is that alien called? Because, like, if you go to Xenopedia, I bet
Yes.
that's what it's called. Because every popular film franchise has now got a pedia.
yes.
It's that white motherfucker's going to
Those
have a
weird
weird
little, like,
name.
scrambly ones, because those guys, like, breathe in spores, plants on the planet.
Right.
So it's like this planet is, like, the source of, like, then obviously it's that David takes and engineers into what becomes the xenomorph,
Right.
you know?
And so that's why they look completely different to the
Yeah.
xenomorph.
Yeah. Well, they look like similar enough. They're like small versions
Yes.
of xenomorphs, and they're like, yeah,
Just bizarre looking and terrifying.
yeah,
But we have to talk about the kind of biblical apocalypse that happens on the engineer homeworld.
yes. Because at the end of Prometheus, all that's left is Shaw's alive and David's sort of alive. He's all messed up, but he's
Yes.
alive. And they're not going to go back to Earth. They're going to go back to, like, the source, like wherever the ship came from.
Right.
Because she's like, I need answers.
Right.
Like, why would they do this? Why would they even conceive of this?
Yes.
To, like, wipe out whole planets in that way.
It's incredibly pessimistic because Shaw gets fucked up.
Yeah. And by
She
the time they
doesn't just
get
die.
there, like, we don't really know how it happens or whatever, but by the time they get there, David's been repaired and he's obviously taken over.
Yes.
Like, she might be dead by that point already. And then he just genocides the planet.
Which is so crazy. David's kind of not interested in the why.
Yes.
David's already kind of figured out the answer and his stance on it.
Yeah.
And his solution to that is to just genocide the planet.
Yes.
And what a beautiful scene.
It's insane, yeah.
It is honestly one of the most incredible things I've seen in cinematic science fiction.
Yes.
Like the way the bombs drop in that circular motion, it looks like a bomber. The design of the ship kind of makes sense after
Yes.
seeing it in Alien as this derelict thing.
Yeah.
You kind of understand its design and its function and how it works.
Yes.
And then you just see all these people that are there celebrating the arrival of clearly the scientific expedition that went out
Yeah.
to seed life.
Yeah.
Right. And now it comes back and it's their own undoing.
Yeah.
Right. Which is like a really cool thing that you can unpack even more because they're the original creators. And now this thing has come back to be their own doom. And when they run, this like black smoke just like eats at them.
Yeah.
And then it turns into this, which informed that really incredible Alien Covenant poster.
Yes.
It's so great. It's just this massive, wrangled, mangled bodies, just like kind of charred by this black flesh-eating shit, whatever it is.
Yes.
And it just looks so incredible, like all of them grasping for the door. It's like this biblical image.
Yeah.
And Ridley Scott is so cool. God, he's so amazing. The only thing I had a problem with was the chest burst in this.
Okay.
Where it's not a chest burst anymore, it's a full-on xenomorph.
Okay, like a little xenomorph.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like a little baby xenomorph.
Yeah.
And it comes out like Jesus and opens its arms, right? So I kind of had a problem with the use of the religious iconography there because it didn't make sense.
Okay.
Really. But just the moments of David meeting his little creation.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. It's like, oh, who's a little xenomorph?
You're a horrible little murderer.
Yeah, you're a little murderer, dude.
But there's a really good scene in this that I think speaks to the fact that it's a very well written film.
Okay.
Where, so there's two Fassbenders in this film. So there's David, who's the original one, and then there's Walter, who's like the same model of.
Right.
But he's obviously designed to be like. Whatever went wrong with David, they've obviously like designed
they
out of
insinuate at the
this
start
guy.
of Covenants, I think, that this is Wayland's David.
Yes, David is like the first one,
Right.
and he's
So
obviously
it's
been
obviously
given this. He's been given like instructions essentially to like something about finding the creator and that sort of thing. And
Yes.
how David now associates this with like the inferiority of the creation.
Right.
And how he essentially can do it better, you know.
Yes.
But there's this really great scene where David is kind of like looking at essentially what he's done, the genocide,
Okay.
and he quotes Ozymandias, the poem Ozymandias, and he attributes it to Byron, Lord Byron, who was a writer, who didn't write it.
Okay.
Very importantly, so Byron was he was like a proponent of the romantic movement, Romanticism,
Okay.
which was all about like individual expression. It's all about like the individual expressing themselves and like how your like desire should all be like individual to you, like tell with everyone else essentially.
Okay.
And this like individualism is what Byron kind of lords over Walter because Walter can't do that.
Okay.
He doesn't have that individuality. He's like the mass-produced robot essentially. And then Walter then corrects him that it wasn't written by Byron, it was written by Percy Shelley. And the whole point of Ozymandias is that it's like a condemnation of these destructive rulers.
Okay.
It's a whole condemnation of like these massive narcissists because I think it's about like an Egyptian pharaoh, the poem, I think.
Yes.
Who's like responsible for horrible things. David is kind of reading it as like a celebration of that kind of ruler. Whereas the whole point of the poem is that it's like a condemnation of the destroyer.
Wild. So David misinterpreted the poem.
He misinterprets the poem. He thinks he is Percy Shelley. He thinks he's Lord Byron in terms of being this like individual free thinker, but he's actually Ozymandias.
Crazy.
He's like the destroyer.
Yeah.
It's really good writing.
That's amazing.
So good.
It's like a really interesting.
And the movie
thematic
never
idea.
explains this to you. It never explains like why he like he attributed the poem incorrectly or that sort of thing. You sort of just have to like know these things.
Right.
It's just like subtext.
That is amazing.
Good writing.
It's really good writing.
And it's also got a lot of blood in it.
Oh, it's a bloody movie.
I think it like walks this line between like gothic horror and like very 80s sleaze kind of horror.
Yes.
Like the scene with the couple in the shower.
Oh yeah.
And then the alien tail comes up like between their legs. That's like so like 80s like sleazy horror.
Do you know that the intention with what was her name in the first Alien ship again? Not Ripley?
Lambert.
Yes. When Lambert is killed, the alien's tail kind of goes up between its legs. It's kind of a very phallic, sexual image.
Yes.
Right? When Ridley was talking about that, the idea is that the alien is literally going to impregnate it. Because how does the alien create more aliens without facehuggers?
Yes.
Like we assume that has to start with a facehugger. This is kind of suggesting that it doesn't just happen with facehuggers.
Yes.
And the entire crew is going to be turned into xenomorphs or like be hosts for more xenomorphs.
Yeah. Well, the original idea, it was cut out of the original Alien, but the idea in the original for where the eggs come from is that you never see you never see the xenomorphs like eating people. They kind of use those like nestings that they build.
Yes.
And whoever they kind of kill and drag back there become the eggs.
Oh, so that's the
like
scene with Dallas.
Down. Yes, exactly.
So Dallas becomes like this person that's broken down into an egg.
Yeah. That was the original idea for like where the eggs come from. They're like built out of like biological
Matter.
things, yeah.
Oh my
It's
word.
messed up. Also, fun fact. I have 2 fun facts. I should have brought it with aliens, but so Dallas, Tom Skerritt's character, according to, so you know in Aliens, where they're having that like whole interrogating Ripley sort of scene.
Oh,
they're
the company's interrogating her. Yeah.
And you can see like the profiles of all the other crew in the background. According to that, Dallas used to work for the Tyrell Corporation, which is
Like
the company from Blade
Runner.
Yes. Also, according to that, I don't know why they did this, but according to that, Lambert is trans.
Seriously?
Yeah, they're just like Lambert was transgender. There's a
They
little fun
just
fact.
threw that in.
Yeah,
I did not notice that. I did not know
because it's not
that.
like they just like threw it in the background there. Just like
I
an
mean,
odd,
you
it's like an
100%
interesting
don't
choice
notice
from.
unless you are pausing and reading those bios,
Yeah,
right? Because you're
exactly.
focusing on Ripley in the foreground of that
Yes.
shot.
They're just like, I'm like, I don't know why they did that, but it's interesting.
There's a lot of that in the series.
Yeah.
Like kind of throwing things in that are just this extra miscellaneous information, right? That is cool.
Yeah,
That's an interesting fact.
yeah,
What is your... So there's like a couple of... I think like a cool thing to discuss now is breaking apart the broader themes that are inherent throughout this trilogy, right? And how it kind of is very subtle in the beginning because it's kind of about the nascent form of the series idea is a monster in space who's like using humans to breed more of its species, etc., etc. But then it's established there by the choices of putting Ash as an android
Yes.
on the ship, that there is crew expendable, that there's this corporate vested interest in this creature, right? And that is expanded upon more and more and more.
Yes.
And I'm like more interested in the idea that there's this corporation that's willing to send humans out who are expendable in order to find this superior creature and use it for purposes to either expand military force, to find medicine, etc., etc. It's got an incredibly pessimistic view of capitalists.
Yes.
Like, it's not obvious,
No.
but it's 100% one of its like interrogative themes
Yeah.
throughout the series, right? I don't know if I'm like stumbling upon that idea correctly, but it feels like it's a really interesting idea to put in a space horror.
Yeah. I think it's more specifically targeted at like massive corporations,
Yes.
but like
Yeah,
that's
because
just
it
an
is kind of
extension
this,
of capitalism.
yeah, it's this
in
like
every way.
amorphous thing, the Wayland
Yeah.
Yutani Corporation that they keep
Yes.
on referring to, and just how shit they are.
Yes.
Because you always see it through the eyes of the crew,
Yeah.
right? And everyone that's involved. I mean, Ripley even says it when she's explaining it to the prisoners in Alien Cubed,
Yes.
when she says to them, initially it was crew expendable.
Yes.
Then there were the mercs, expendable.
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to give a shit about a whole bunch of prisoners on a backwater planet?
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of thing. And just like humans don't matter to these people, like individuals, and loss of life is kind of a natural consequence to human progress.
Yeah.
Right. Which is like, this series is not a fan of big corporations. I mean, which is ironic
Yes.
because it's like also this series that's fraught with production issues because there's this vested monetary interest
Yeah.
in creating more
Yeah.
of these films, right? And then not letting directors kind of do their thing with it.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, at least.
Yeah.
I think as soon as someone like Ridley comes back,
Yeah. He's got enough pull at that point in time to be able to
exactly.
an extent, at least dictate.
Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, like we've spoken about this before, Ridley's not one to kind of put his interests above a producer's interest
Yeah.
because he said before that the person paying for it,
Yeah. He basically
You
views
know.
it as like he works for the, the people whose money, who are giving him hundreds of millions of dollars to make films. So when it comes to like, okay, you need to take this 3-hour movie and turn it into a 2-hour movie. He's essentially like, all right, these are the people who are paying for this thing. They get
Yes.
the say, which I mean
fair.
is understandable. Yeah.
It is understandable.
Yeah. Like, I don't think he has any illusions about working in the studio system, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, he's not out there trying to make independent films for, like, no money. He's like, the kind of films that he makes cost a lot of money. And he's going to, he's willing to take the compromises in order to do that.
Right. So what are your thoughts on Romulus coming?
I'm excited. I haven't seen any of this guy's other movies yet.
Okay.
And they haven't been showing a lot. Like, that feels very deliberate.
Yes,
In terms of, like, the trailers have actually been pretty understated.
there have been.
Which is exciting because I don't super know what it's about.
Yeah, you don't know if it's going to be kind of a requel
Yeah.
or like a straight up reboot.
Yes.
Or how it's connected maybe to the
Yeah.
rest of the Alien films,
Exactly.
if at all. Which is nice
Yeah.
to have. It's not burdened
Exactly.
by anything that came before it.
Yeah.
But what I loved in the marketing
Yes.
was the trailer's interpretation of the tagline of Alien 1.
Okay.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
Yes.
And before they write that in text in the trailer, and before they write the word scream,
Right.
you have this woman staring down at her friend and a chest burster coming out of it. You don't see it.
Right.
But she's just got her mouth open in horror screaming.
Yes.
And they cut out the sound of the scream.
Okay.
I was like, oh, cool. I'm
Yes.
behind you.
Yeah.
You guys did a good thing there. And then obviously I mentioned earlier the Alien Cubed shot reference where you just have the xenomorph screaming at a human. That's like, ah! I was like, that is a beautiful shot.
Yeah.
And it just looks beautiful. So the only film I think that I've seen of this director,
Yes.
and I have my phone open because I shamefully, full of shame, didn't do my research. And I've forgotten their name. I apologize. But what I have seen of this director,
Yes.
so I'm a fan of the Evil Dead series.
Yes.
So this person remade The Evil Dead
Yes.
as a horror movie.
Okay.
Because the first Evil Dead is trash. It's kind of just this B-grade horror, and if you're into that kind of thing,
Yeah.
then it's cool. Evil Dead 2, masterpiece. Comedy horror, genius. And that's where you get like Ash and the Evil Dead and that kind of thing. Okay? But this 2013 Evil Dead tried to re-envision Evil Dead as the horror it was always designed to be,
Right.
right? Fede Alvarez.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your name, but we're learning. Please teach me. So this has got a 6.5 on IMDb. I'm not going to pay attention to that. But this is a gory, bloody, really good, solid, aesthetically beautiful retelling of The Evil Dead.
Okay.
And it's a fucked up paranormal horror. And it's kind of disturbing. And I was all about it. It was bloody as hell. I remember watching Evil Dead Rises, which was made by a different person, I think.
Okay.
And thinking, oh, it's not as bloody as the previous one, which is a messed up thing to think.
Yes.
I never was one of these people that's a fan of like body horror
Yeah.
and shit. But that was a messed up, scary horror movie. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. So maybe people complain about the fact that I don't watch enough horrors to be well versed in the genre,
Okay.
but fucking loved it. But I think, did you watch Don't Breathe?
No.
Okay. I've heard great things about it.
Okay.
But I'm incredibly excited about this director. That's all I'm going to say, at least in the horror space.
Cool.
And I'm interested in the idea of Alien returning to being a basic horror movie.
Right.
And it just has to be about that.
Yeah.
About a bunch of people trapped on a ship, you know? So I'm stoked.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited.
Have you seen the viral marketing?
No.
Like side,
I'm
the
not an
kind of
online person.
outside the Chinese theater in Los Angeles or Hollywood,
Okay.
where there are a whole bunch of people lying on the floor with face huggers on them.
Okay.
And this dude like lying outside of a taxi with a chest burster stick. Oh, there's a guy who fully has like a rig
Yes.
or something, and he's walking around in public and be like, and this chest burster comes out,
Wild.
which I'm like, rad.
Yes.
I'm just stoked about that effort.
Yeah.
Right? And let's not lie, it's nice to get an Alien movie.
Yeah. It's always fun.
Like, this is a great series. A great series, not consistently good
No.
at all.
No.
Like, people would argue that, I mean, clearly there hasn't been a franchise killer, but it came pretty close to it with some of these movies,
Yeah.
right? Especially with Aliens Cubed, I'm, like, campaigning for that being its new name, and Alien Resurrection.
Yeah.
Like, just movies that weren't great, right?
No.
But at least Fincher made his first film,
Yeah.
and he got to make his second film, which was 7?
Was that his second? Yeah, I think
Or was
you're
it
right.
Fight Club?
No, 7 came before Fight Club.
Okay. Which is nuts.
Yes.
If you're like, I think it was 28 on Alien Cubed,
Right.
and if he was 30, 31,
Yes.
making 7,
That's wild.
just like, dude, you're amazing. Like, you're amazing, David.
It's like Spielberg making Jaws at like 27.
Fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Prodigies.
Right.
Prodigies. The lot of them.
Wild.
Yeah. It's cool to be a fan of movies.
Right.
I think Alien is a great series to be a fan of for the sake of it. Like, there are dope movies in this series, and
Yeah.
it's just fun as hell to watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How over time are we?
We've been going for quite a while.
Wonder if we're going to edit this at all. If not, if you're still listening, then thank you for caring about our opinions. I doubt you are.
All right, I'm back.
Whoa. That was quick.
It's been hours. Greg. It's been hours. Did you guys have enough stuff to talk about?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, we can unpack one idea for quite a long time, apparently.
Lovely. And yeah, any folks listening now, lovely. It is so great to still have you, and thanks for enjoying a great chat. As we've said, we love the deeper waters. We love to really sink our teeth into stuff. So I hope you got a lot out of the chat with Graeme and Cole. And let us know if you want us to do more of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We are grateful to have the brains of these two and the great cinematic knowledge, and hopefully what we said added some good value to your watching, especially going into Romulus.
Yes.
Which, as we said, is now going to be in cinemas.
It'll be out tomorrow.
Yeah, in the day that this episode's released, it's coming out tomorrow, and it's gonna be lekker.
Have fun.
Yeah, cool guys.
Yeah.
All right. Good productive day.
Yeah.
Magic. All right.
Bye.
Cheers.
Goodbye.